We're going to begin the Historic Resources Board meeting. Today is May 3rd, and we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Please turn your cell phones to silent. And we have called the meeting to order. We've done the pledge. We'll do roll call.
Curtis Franco.
Here.
Lorraine Coe.
Here.
David Medeiros.
Here.
Eric Redstoff.
Here.
Vandy Beaver.
Here. Okay, next item is public comment. Here's an opportunity for anyone from the audience to come to the podium with a public comment for an item that is not on the agenda. If you have an item for the agenda, wait till that time. And you'll find speaker cards in the back where you can write the item that you want to speak about. Or if you're doing public comment, do they need a speaker card? Yes. Yeah, they do. Okay, anybody have a public comment they'd like to make? Okay, then we'll move on to item 4. We have 5, no.
Item 3.
I'm sorry. We're moving on to number 3, informal project review. Now, here's a time when somebody can come up and present a project they're considering doing. They haven't gone through the process, haven't gone through planning yet, they haven't paid any fees yet, but it's a great time to brainstorm with the Planning Commission, the Historic Resources Board, to find out if their project is pretty much on track or if it needs to go back to the drawing board. So we do have an item tonight. It's the re-roofing of the old adobe at 101 3rd Street, and the applicant is Emily Renzel.
Thank you, Chair. Is this on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Guibert and members of the Commission, or Historic Resources Board. I'm sorry that I didn't get the material to you tonight. The little sketch that Rudy provided you was just some brainstorming we were doing about possible ways to change the slope on the little roof that overhangs the sidewalk. But tonight I'm really concerned about just getting your okay, or not okay, but your feedback on materials to be used. I'm planning to re-roof the Casa de Anza this summer if I can, and I'm here tonight for preliminary review of the materials I hope to use. I purchased the Casa de Anza on December 27, 2007, and have been gradually working on it since then. I had hoped to do some seismic upgrading as part of a re-roofing project, but found that that's a much bigger project than I'm able to take on. Meanwhile, the roofing badly needs replacement, so I've decided to simply re-roof at this time. In December 2008, Garavalli and Associates completed a core historic structures report for the Casa de Anza. They concluded that because the construction of the history of the Casa remains uncertain, it would be reasonable to use the 1934 Historic American Building Survey drawings and photographs as a basis for decision-making with respect to meeting the Secretary of Interior standards, which is a requirement if I want to stay as a national landmark. I want to meet the standards. The current roofing is very long shakes, but the 1934 HAB study photo and drawings show that more conventional redwood shingles or shakes were in place at that time. For the front slope of the roof, I'm requesting to use these more conventional shingle shakes. There's a Watsonville supplier of redwood shingle. I'm saying shingle shakes because I'm not sure which they are and what would be the better one to use to get the kind of texture that exists now. But anyway, this Watsonville supplier has salvaged old growth redwood materials that they can get in shakes and shingles, and I hope to be able to get the material from them. For the rear slope, which has a shed roof going down at a lower angle and is on the weatherward side of the building, I'm hoping to replace the orange roll roofing that was installed sometime around 1998 with composition shingles with a weathered wood appearance. It's my hope to preserve the historic patina on the soffit of the sidewalk overhang and ask that the HRB support that effort. And I only have one copy of this, but the one that looked the closest to, I can just pass it around to you, the Shenandoah seems to look the closest to the weathered redwood. And it's the only copy I have, so I'm sorry. So that's the type of material I would like to use, and I think it has there are composition shingles on the Zeller house behind me that were installed just within the last couple of years, so apparently they're an acceptable material. Now, the larger document I showed you, just to give you some confidence about the fact that the current big giant shingles or shakes, whatever they are, were not there in 1934. This is the illustration on the front of the 1934 Historic American Building Survey drawings. And then there's also an elevation from that drawing, also showing very closely spaced shingles or shakes, I'm not sure which. And then there is this picture, which shows my property when the old pool hall was between my building and the Casa Rosa. And that very clearly has the very fine grain of smaller conventional shingles. And the little pool hall was torn down in 1937. So we have a clear window between 34 and 37, which is the recommended standard under the Core Historic Report, is to use these finer grained shingles. So that's, I think, all I have to present to you.
Well, I have to say you're a model applicant. It's exciting to see this document from 1934. For those of you who don't know, the Historic American Building Survey was, it's on the Library of Congress website. You can go and look at all these beautiful photographs of buildings from that period. You've brought history to document. You've brought your architectural kind of renderings. You've done your homework.
Something we don't see that often.
Well, it's commendable. I thank you for that.
Yeah, so it seems like there's two issues. I'm basically trying to replace in kind with redwood shingle shakes, whichever was the right one, in the front, and then composition shingles replacing composition roll roofing in the back. And so the question is one for you: is that acceptable to get to a more conventional shingle or shake in the front? And then the other question is if the type of, I don't know how far that little brochure has gone, but whether something like this Shenandoah, which is a weathered wood imitation composition shingle, would be all right for the back. It certainly would be a major step up from what's there now. So.
Okay.
Now, you want to maintain the National Historic Registry, and you have to do certain things to do that. Is everything that you're proposing will still result in your being on the register?
I'm actually a national landmark, which also puts me on the registry. But the rule is that any modifications should try to meet the Secretary of Interior standards. And you guys are the arbiters of whether or not I'm meeting the Secretary of Interior standards. So you guys are the ones who have to make that decision. That's the way it works all over the country. And it sometimes results in loss of historic fabric. I'm trying as much as possible to keep the casa looking as it does now without it looking decrepit. And so that's my intent. And I know from my own experience that you can treat new redwood with something like baking soda and water, and it'll weather it a little faster. So I would experiment certainly with that and try to get it looking old faster than it would naturally. So,
Commissioners?
I'm glad that she's, sensitive enough to want to do this, and I commend you on that, because I don't want to see it down. I want to see it stay. And I also want to you to have the Secretary of Interior standards so that it stays on the register. And everything you've got here, you feel does that?
As far as I know, the Core Historic Report recommends using the Habs drawings as a guide, since there isn't a good construction history for the building, and the really, and very likely the first actual roof, which may have been put on in 1840 or something like that, when the milled lumber came, probably was a standard shingle or shake, not some gigantic thing. So, and that's reflected in the...
Well, I'm glad that Garvalia and Associates, who are historic, he's a historic architect, he placed it in a time that would be appropriate for you to try to replicate. And I think that's great for us, because it's always hard to know which time period we want to try to capture with the buildings. And I'm really happy that you're going to get redwood shingles from salvaged redwood. That's ideal, and thank you for doing that. Commissioners, do you have other questions or comments? Or
If this came through as an application, I would support it.
yeah, okay.
And the next step is that I come in and apply for a permit, and then does that also come before the HRB, or just...
I don't, if it's just a maintenance issue.
And well,
Why don't we give it our blessing, because this way, if there's any
Yeah.
question
We'll
about it from
just make it official.
the powers to be, say, look, we reviewed this in accordance with the standards, and this is what we, the board, said.
If the Secretary of Interior is leaving it upon us, then yeah, it should come before us. So we can,
the only question I might have is about how fire retardant it would be.
The people at the company in Watsonville said that redwood is naturally fire retardant. However, there is some sort of a membrane or something, Roger may be able to tell you further, that can be put underneath the shingle that renders it fire retardant. It's put like it's like the tar paper, but on top of the tar paper. And they can also be treated, but I think it's something like $700 per square to get them redwood shingles treated. But that's what I know so far, and I'll certainly try to find out more. But, there was a huge fire across at where Doña Esther's is in 1958, and it actually lit the roof of my building on fire, just the overhang on the sidewalk, I believe. But that was re-roofed in 1958, the overhang on the sidewalk, and I doubt that it has been done since, so it's ready.
It's time. Okay, well, if there are no further...
Oh, yeah. One other question was that I want to preserve the soffit that people see from underneath the sidewalk. It has a real old look. It's got weathered paint. And I want to preserve that, and I've been talking to Roger and Rudy about possible ways to secure it so that it's safe to be on top of and to nail roofing to, but I would love to have you encourage that, because I really would like to do it if possible.
Okay.
Is the rear slope, all of the rear slope you're thinking about putting into composition roofing?
Yes.
Okay.
From the ridge line down. It would look silly to do two different things because it's all one big roof. And so...
I'm okay with that, too, because that was an addition, and it's not as visible from the street as the front piece.
Yeah.
So.
and the reason for doing comp on one side and a natural wood on the other, that's just purely a weather...
No, it's two different things. There's the roof of the adobe,
Right.
like this, and then there's the little overhang on the sidewalk, which is a fairly shallow pitch. And then on this side, there's a shed roof coming off from the bottom of the pitch, and it's a much lower slope, and I think it just would be a more weather-tight
So
solution.
you're thinking about doing the comp just on that shed roof?
From the shed, the whole roof from the ridge line down.
Oh, from the ridge line down.
It would look strange to have two
Right,
different
right, right.
materials. But composition was used on the Zeller house. They look like shingles, but, and this one that I'm proposing has a bit more articulation and color differentials to kind of make it look more natural. So, doing the best I can.
I'm okay with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we want to go for a permit, or can't do it tonight because it wasn't on the agenda? for-
Yeah. No, I think we concur that, yeah.
So this would be on your June agenda
Yeah,
then? I need to start getting bids coming in and get some work done on that so that I can do this while the sun is shining this summer, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank
I think
you.
you see a consensus here. We can't take an action, but I think you see a consensus.
Do we have any comments from the audience? Anyone care to? Okay. We have a thumbs up in the back. Okay. Thank you very much for presenting such a great report. Presentation. Presenting a great presentation. All right, moving on.
Okay, that's good.
Now we have 4 action items. And I don't think we want to do them all together. So what do we want to do?
Well, I'll move for, I would like to take action 4C and D and make that separate from A and B.
This is not consent, so you're not asked to
Oh.
approve them as one.
Okay, one by one then.
Okay, okay.
I move that we approve the affidavit of posting with the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing it out. I wasn't reading the fine print.
I saw it, but
Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Coe?
Aye.
Board Member Vidaris?
Aye.
Board Member Granisoff?
Aye.
Chairman Guibert?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, now we're moving on to item 4B. Consider historic downtown streetscape guidelines and recommend adoption by the Planning Commission. So for the past few months, we've been discussing the San Juan Bautista Historic Downtown Streetscape Guidelines. We have just about come to a final draft. We all thought we were at a final draft, but I think the city manager wanted a little bit added to give him freedom if need be. So what I've done is, on page 4, at the end of the first paragraph, I'll read the first paragraph. The Historic Resources Board must review and approve alterations or additions to the publicly owned components of the historic district, including curb color and road striping, crosswalks, sidewalks, signage, lighting fixtures, and street furniture such as benches, bike racks, trash receptacles, in order to be sure they are consistent with the above guidelines. Staff may replace existing approved components in kind. So I'm suggesting that we add one sentence. Keeping these guidelines in mind, the city manager retains discretionary authority to take immediate corrective action when health and/or safety issues are at stake. And I think that allows him to make an urgent decision if need be, but we also have these guidelines in place so that he can be proactive and
Doing what he can in an emergency situation
Yeah.
to attempt to keep.
yeah. So, do you want to read this, Roger?
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay,
Really showed that to me. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, based,
Do we have any public comments? We had workshops where the public was included, and we've gone over this quite a bit.
Ready. Can you turn the camera?
It includes just discussion of ADA ramps and curbs, benches, bicycle racks, colors, light fixtures, planters, roof lines, sidewalk signage, trash recycling receptacles. We just want to keep the historic ambiance of the downtown district and make it clear to merchants, staff, that these guidelines should be followed whenever possible. So, no comments from the public? Okay, back to the commissioners.
I can live with it.
Okay, David?
No,
Do you, okay,
I'm ready to move it forward.
okay. David?
If everybody else is, I mean, that's my-
Eric?
That's my take.
No, I mean, we've had a couple of workshops on this, and I
Yeah.
think we've
Is that a
fine-tuned
motion?
it.
Is that a motion?
I can make a motion. Do we have?
Can we also talk
Is
about,
it just a,
we don't have any resolutions.
right, so
Yeah.
it's just a motion
Oh.
to recommend it to the
Planning.
city, to Planning Commission.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to recommend the San Juan Bautista Historic Downtown Streetscape Guidelines to the Planning Commission.
And
Second.
would you like to include where it be included?
As amended.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
amended.
as amended, but also moving to the design guidelines.
Yes,
Yes.
oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Keep it all in one place.
Yes.
So moved. So seconded.
Okay.
Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Coe? Aye. Board Member Madera?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasoff?
Aye.
Chairman Geber?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay.
Okay, so should I give this to you, Trish, the language, or? No? Thank you.
For the record.
Okay,
Right.
next item.
Keep coming up with these items.
Let's just keep my agendas out.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, we have, consider recommending approval of Resolution 2016 but we'll work on that. Recognizing residential structure for National Preservation Month to the Planning Commission. So the month of May is National Preservation Month. Organizations around the country celebrate National Preservation Month in various ways. And for the last, I guess this will be our 5th year, we've honored a commercial structure for maintaining its building and being good stewards. This year, we've also decided to recognize a residential structure. And we've kind of changed the language from commercial to public, a public structure and a residential structure, because as it turns out, what we have chosen is the Glad Tidings Church for the public building, and for the residential building, it's the building at 1111 First Street. We believe it to be an old school. And so last month, we itemized all the reasons why. Well, we voted. We had a lot of options. David, a photographer, took pictures of all the buildings around town that he thought were worthy or eligible.
Deserved recognition.
And so we had those to choose from. And based on that, we chose those 2 structures. And David has made a framed copy that will be presented to each of them?
No, just to the private one.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be at another time.
Didn't think of the
Well,
public one yet.
Yeah.
To get to that.
It-
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be an inscribed print of the residents with commemorating the event and what have you.
That's very
Yeah.
nice.
So,
We've talked about a way to acknowledge, we give them a certificate, but we've tried to think of some other way, a plaque or something, and we haven't come up with anything. But David, I think that's a great idea. And thank you for doing
we'll see
all
how that works.
So a letter has been mailed to Mr. and Mrs. Koch of 1111 First Street and to Pastor and John Emilio of Glad Tidings Church. The letter was mailed. We have a certificate of recognition, and we have resolutions. And now the Historic Resources Board will recommend to the Planning Commission that these resolutions be approved. So should we do them together? Do you want to do them separate?
They are planning
There's-
commission resolutions, so you would be recommending that a resolution. that
Be
the
established.
Planning commission pass a resolution.
And they're separate
Here's,
resolutions. So,
pass his draft resolution. We'll
Okay.
call it a draft resolution at this time.
okay, so we'll do that one by one. So do we have any comments from the public?
I don't have any speakers.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, do you have any further comments about this process, or? Okay.
I'm good.
Mr. and Mrs. Koch came in before the meeting. They're not able to go to city council on the third Tuesday of the month. So we will
So
present that.
they've asked for a continuance to June.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so we're good.
okay.
Okay.
So we need a motion.
Okay, I move that the board recommend the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2016 something, recognizing the residential, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, original structure for National Preservation Month to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Board
Yes.
Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Coe? Aye. Board Member Maderas?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasaff?
Aye.
Chairman Guibert?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, I move that we recommend to the Planning Commission that it approve the draft resolution recognizing the commercial structure for National Preservation Month, and that being the Glad Tidings Church.
Okay.
Have a second?
Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Coe? Aye. Board Member Maderas?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasaff?
Aye.
Chairman Guibert?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
And just, I forgot to mention, it's, both buildings are featured on page 27 in the Mission Village Voice. You can read a lot about them, not all about them, but. Okay.
We keep telling people this is the city of history, and come on down because you got the ambience. And unless we do this, and everybody who has these older houses, maintain them, we're going to lose that part of our history, and there'll be no reason to come down here because it's going to look like any other city. So if we want to keep the downtown or our commercial area and our whole town with that turn of the century ambiance, this is going to be one by one. And if you want to get started on your house, fine, let us know. If you have a friend who's thinking about it, encourage them, and let us know for next year's selections.
Okay. Moving on to discussion. The first item is the update on the brewery building.
4E.
Five.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what about E?
I gave you a new agenda.
Oh, sorry.
It's just the rescheduled the June meeting.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know where it is now.
Tell us about it.
Right here,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so 5E, rescheduled June meeting because it conflicts with the primary election. So, do we have another date to look at?
Usually we schedule it to the next day, Wednesday. Really, there's
Say
no
the 8th?
strategic planning meeting or...
That's the following
Oh,
Tuesday.
the following Tuesday?
Well,
or-
but you're right, the following Tuesday probably is occupied, but the Wednesday, the 8th,
I don't think Wednesday.
the room isn't occupied.
That works for me.
So what date we want to use?
June 8th, Wednesday, the day after. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we reschedule the June meeting due to the conflict with Election Day and consider a special meeting on June 8th, the following day.
I'll second it.
Board Member Franco?
Aye.
Board Member Coe?
Aye.
Board Member Maderas?
Aye.
Board Member Gretasaff?
Aye.
Chairman Guibert?
Aye.
All members of the board being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, we're moving along.
Okay, now 5A, update on the brewery building.
The staff report outlined a letter that we sent to Mr. Hippolito back in March the 31st, advising him that the suspended period of no work exceeded the 180 days, and that he had 10 days to submit a request for an extension. He did not do that, so we rendered the building permit invalid effectively at the completion of that 10-day period. And so we've since then sent a letter to him and his attorney stating this, that any activity that's going to be on there would have to be, they'd have to reapply to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Over the weekend, I saw the front door open.
Yeah, somebody banged it in and took the secured board that was holding it shut. We got in there this morning, and tomorrow Joe is going to re-secure it.
So what are our options? We had a lien,
Right.
we had him take,
Yeah, right, yeah,
and it expired.
yeah.
And
There is a court order from the judge that they have to sell it,
okay,
and it's now proceeding through that phase of the settlement of the divorce,
Okay.
where they have to sell the
Okay.
both parcels. And we've had several people interested in it, and I think that's why one of the doors was open. They wanted to take a look at it, and to buy it and then complete it, and I advised them that to come in and look at the plans, and then to have them, if you're interested in it, and then the bid, then if they're successful, then they'd have to come back to the Plan Commission. So things are beginning to take place in it because of the court stipulation.
Is there a projected time frame of when they have to sell it?
The attorney didn't tell us if there was a time limit, but both attorneys are pushing it to commence with it. It's going through an interlocutory divorce settlement.
And then how will it be advertised as available? I mean, who would own it then?
Whoever's a successful purchaser.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any comments?
And so far, of what we've talked with 3 or 4 people potential, each one of them are excellent recipients of it because they're in the restaurant business and they know exactly what has to be done to get it motivated in the downtown area. So we're excited that they're interested in it.
Good. Okay. Anybody from the audience have any comments? Okay. Moving on to the Orchard Garden. At the last City Council meeting, a resolution was read encouraging Assemblyman Luis Alejo to act on our behalf to negotiate with the state park to allow us to use the park. Maybe you should give a staff report.
Yeah, and I think when Tony Bach and I approached him several months ago and told him that we were interested in that, he took it upon himself and his aides and assistants, and they've done a remarkable job of pushing this forward to do the collaboration with the state to see if we could increase the usage of it. And I think that's paramount to our downtown historical district is to get more use of it and everything. We've got tremendous support from all sectors of our community, as well as Senator Alejo and our Assemblyman Alejo and then Senator Canella. So I think it's moving forward in the right direction.
It was a very strong resolution. It really incorporated everything.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting, exciting meeting because so many stakeholders from the community were present to show support for the resolution. So it's nice when we all work together and for the same thing.
I've got a question. I mean, you got the folks up there working right now. Where could the Planning Commission or the board put some muscle to help out? I see this as a land use issue in a historical district, but to me it is land use. And there used to be buildings on that property when I was reading, and we're not looking to put buildings out there, but I just see a big gap in our downtown that is not even being maintained. When we make people cut their weeds because of fire damage, and I see all kinds of weeds inside that fence. And if the city had anything to say about it, we would either be having kids cut it or having our crew cut it or do something to maintain a nice, neat place for people to picnic, sit around, to hang out. And so I would like to see where we're going to go with this, either take it to the Planning Commission as a land use matter and have a resolution that supports what the council's doing, or just in general, or something. I just hate to just sit here and not do anything, let things happen. And one thing about planning, things don't happen. They're made to happen. So we need to make this happen.
I agree, and maybe we should develop a resolution, bring it back to you at the June meeting that will support this, and
I would
highlight
support
it.
that.
I think I've indicated to you is that you don't want to push the state officials into an adversary role, but we want to really highlight in the resolutions that we prepared is that we really want to get into a discussion, collaboration, and use of the facilities that will benefit all sectors of our society, not only the residents, but the tourists and the visitors, as well as the historians and stuff like that, and then use a piece of property on a regular basis.
Very good. Anyone for the audience care to speak on this? Okay. We'll move on to the next discussion item, adopting historic color palette. Let's see, how to begin this. I've often thought that it would be nice to have an adopted color palette for the downtown district, because anytime anyone seems to paint, they always either paint the same colors or they go with beige. I know one property owner downtown mentioned, this is hearsay, third party, but he didn't want to have to deal with us because they think it's very complicated and it's a long and arduous process, but it really isn't. But if we had something on display in the office, like for instance this, then somebody could come in and just look at what they like. We always think a 3-color palette is interesting. It often defines the architectural features, and that way they wouldn't have to come to us. They could just choose one of these, and that would be that. This is, I don't know how even new this is. I picked it up quite a while ago. One thing that would be a problem is that these things change all the time, and they're not always available. But if we had samples maybe out, or if we could phrase it in such a way that people would know that they could come to the office and check out possibilities. Because I'd like to encourage color. Like the IOOF building downtown was painted not that long ago, but it's just all one color, gray. There are no accent colors to highlight features to make it more interesting. Commissioners, do you have any comments?
Yeah. My thought was, my own experience, if you're getting into a field that isn't yours, hit somebody whose field it is and invite them over to explain some stuff to us. Now, if we get one of the paint dealers to come down and make a presentation talking about, say, we want to maintain historical colors in town, have him or her explain the different kinds of paints and palettes and stuff that's available on the market, and how often do they change, or what would we have to do? Every 5 years we'd have to have another meeting or something? But get it from first hand from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Just yesterday in the San Francisco, the news, the online version of the Chronicle, there was an article about Dr. Paint in San Francisco, because he's the one who makes a lot of recommendations of the various color combinations on beautiful old Victorians. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but certainly consulting a professional is a way to go.
I dealt with Hollister Paint. I'd be glad to go and talk with them if that would help.
So are you
Invite somebody to come over
Yeah.
and say, hey, tell us,
actually,
we want to maintain historic
this one?
colors. Tell us about it.
This one came from there. This is Bear, but it's not historic colors. But I just like the combination of colors, so you can see the possibilities, and you don't have to guess at what's going to look good.
But at some point, isn't portion of the design guideline, doesn't it clearly state to repaint in the similar or original color? And if we open it up, then that's why I think having it come to the Historic Resources Board is an important thing.
Well, do you remember, Cora, if the design guidelines say that it has to be in kind?
Yeah, I mean, this was the whole thing we had with JJ's Burger when it changed several shades over what it was originally, and we were questioning why. And in the thing, it says something to the effect of same color, same shade, same something, otherwise it has to come to the Historic Resources Board.
Okay.
So,
But if it came to the Historic Resources Board, does the Historic Resources Board know enough about paint chips and color patterns to be able to explain it to it? And if we have one of those guys come down and explain it to us, basically they're educating us, so we'd be able to relate to the person coming in.
no, I don't have a problem with that, but if what the discussion is whether we should adopt a paint scheme across the board so that they don't have to come to us. I agree, getting educated on how to choose those colors or whatever, but it would then contradict what's already in the code.
Maybe we need to change that, because if it's easy, that's why the gray building is still gray. They went with what had been there,
Right.
and it would have been preferable probably to choose
Yeah,
coordinated colors.
I don't think I would be advert to allowing different colors. The thing is as our code is stated right now, it doesn't allow for it, unless it comes to us. So it sounds like first we need, if this is a direction we want to go, it sounds like first we need to modify that portion of the code and come up with this thing at the same time.
Okay. I didn't mean to
I'll
put you
make
on
a
the spot,
comment.
but you know a lot, you remember a lot of
Cara
this.
Bonk, 609 3rd. Originally, colors were supposed to come before the Historic Resources Board, but I think it was changed somewhere along the line. And I know we've, perhaps in the design guidelines, you know, the booklet, I believe we do encourage a 3-color palette. That's my recollection. I haven't looked at it in a while. And I just want to mention that recently we spent a week in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico in their historic district, and they have a lot of guidelines. And our landlady indicated that they had a color palette down in City Hall, and that, you know, the colors were, you couldn't go outside that color range. So it's not unheard of. And I think Sherman-Williams has a historic color palette, but it may be focused on New England, you know,
Oh, yeah.
kind of
This
stuff,
one is
but-
California colors.
Oh, okay.
And this one is arts and crafts, which wouldn't be bad because it's from the 1900s, but
Well, we do have arts
Yeah.
and crafts buildings in town.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to make it easy for people and to encourage the 3-color palette.
and maybe we should take out that clause about painting the same color because we
Right,
may
the
not like that
lowest
old color.
color.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing about the 3-color palette, if we could select certain 3-color palette patterns and say, okay, if you use any one of these, you're okay. If you want something different, present it, and we'll talk about it. And we can make sure that it matches, that it meets our needs, or meets the needs of the city, and that's the flexibility.
I mean, we don't
But-
want to be color Nazis, and we don't want to tell people what colors to use, but there are very few of us who are innately artistic, you know, and can really choose color palettes that'll go well together. So, okay, well, we'll talk about it again next month.
Would you go for having a
Yeah,
speaker?
yeah.
I think we need to develop a palette that would represent our city, you know, would cover, it doesn't have to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be, let's say a palette that says, these are the colors, these are the official colors. But in shades and textures or whatever you need to put on there, I think that would be beneficial. Give us an idea, a brief idea of which direction to go, emphasizing 3 colors, basically, and that's it. And then we can take it from there, and then whoever comes forward, if it's a 3-color thing that they've got coming forward, if they don't, then we recommend that they do, and see where we go with that. And that will give us a little muscle to say that this is the direction we want to go. I think that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Anyone from the audience have any comments? You're so quiet tonight. You're saving yourselves for something.
You want me to invite the...
Yes,
folks?
please.
Okay.
Must be the last item.
Okay, now we have comments from Historic Resource Board members. Do you want to start, Lorraine?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I just want to add that today is May 3rd. Today is Silicon Valley Gives. It's a day of giving. It's facilitated by a company called Razoo. There are some matching funds available for some groups. But if you have a favorite charity in town or in the county, think about supporting them in some way because today's the day that's happening. And that's it for me. City manager?
None?
Okay, city planner?
All right.
All right then, I'll close the meeting of the Historic Resources Board and pass the gavel.
There you go. Okay, what time do we have here for starts? It's now 6:44. Welcome to the meeting of May 3rd, 2016 of the San Juan Bautista Planning Commission. This is a regular meeting. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Vandy Guevara.
Aye.
Eric Grexoff.
Aye.
David Madeira.
Here.
Lorraine Coe.
Here?
Ernest Franco.
Aye. Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. This is a time for public comment. If anybody would like to speak on any item that's not on the agenda, you want to inform the commission of something, we don't deal with arguing with you about it here, but if it's something that needs to be addressed, we will put it on the meeting's next agenda. And that way we can, as an agendized item, it can be discussed publicly. At this point, we can only take information, and the only thing we can do is set for public hearing, or set for the next agenda. Is anyone who would like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda? If it's on the agenda, please hold it until that time so all your comments, since they're being televised, are all in one place.
I have no speaker cards.
No speaker cards, okay, thank you. And by the way, you do get to speak on any of the items as they come up. Okay, we have an informal project review. Again, anybody who has a project they would like to consider in the city, before you rack up bills from your architects and engineers, come and tell us what you have in mind. We can bounce it back and forth. And if you want a 10-story building that's purple, we probably won't laugh. We'll just ask you to come back later with something shorter and better color. But again, it won't cost you anything to come in and ask about certain things. So, what have we got, staff?
We have the Obronsky proposing to put a home at Lawson Drive. This is one of the properties that was separated, belonged to the Nylands, through the lot line adjustment that went
meeting?
through, or a couple meetings ago. I believe the Bronskys are here and ready to answer questions. Also, they sent me a packet of stuff, and I put it at your guys' respective seats. So,
Mention that it's in the hillside.
yeah. Also,
Makes it tough to look at this stuff when we're sitting on it.
yeah, this would probably have to be one of our first hillside development regulations due to its.
That ordinance is in effect?
Yeah.
And does this comply with that, or?
Well, I mean, this is all informal at the moment.
That's what we're here.
Hello.
Okay, I'm Brandon Obronsky. This is my wife Annette. So we're wanting to build a home in your beautiful city. We've also put an offer in on the property. I think it's Polk is the street, or
Lawson.
Washington. Yeah.
and it's parcel number 1 is the parcel.
It's an empty lot?
It is. I mean, I think the lot lines were just formalized.
Yeah, just formalized, yeah.
Okay. So what we're hoping to do is find a spot on there that's flat enough. I think we kind of walked the property. There's a couple places that we're hoping. I know we were talking Rudy, because there's some, I guess, landslide areas. So we'd want to get an idea on that. You sent us a topography map.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And we're just, we're not builders, so we're just trying to get an idea. But our idea is to put, I hope this doesn't stun everybody, but a manufactured home. But we want to put it on a foundation. Or foundation. And then we want to do a separate stick-built garage. And if you look on page 6 and 7, give you like a basic idea of what the structure is. It's actually from a really cool country up in Oregon called Idea Box. I don't know if you guys have time, but you should go on the website. It's cool.
Is it one of those tiny homes, or?
It's small. I don't know if it's considered tiny.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 700. The manufactured home is 750 square feet.
Yeah. And then the garage itself would have another 300, so in total would be about 1,000 square feet. So it would be smaller, which we kind of like. And also, if you look back on page, let's look back. Page 18, it gives you drawings of the garage.
With the living space on the second floor.
With the living space, so you can get an idea of kind of the structure. We're kind of going for like it's kind of a craftsman. But also, if you look on pages, actually, let's see here. There's a lot of pages. Page 16, page 17, I think. Yeah, it gives you some other other drawings of the possible manufactured home, there's options for that. So we wanted to give you guys some ideas, so you weren't stuck on just the one. The first option that you guys looked at was, I figured it was like a shed roof, I think.
So if a gabled roof is more your preference, that they can go with the gabled roof?
Or like it has some dormers. So we think together, with the separate garage and the home, it might, it's gonna kind of fit in with what we see on the town as well. I think the main thing is we just want to get an idea if this is something you guys would consider before we get too far along in the, purchasing the property. We just put an offer in, and we were told that they were going to accept, so we're hoping the next day that we'll get an acceptance back.
So you bid on the Polk Street property or the
Lawson.
It's on, I guess it's Lawson, but it's.
Larson.
Larson?
Larson. Parcel 1 is the parcel.
So the one closer to the
Oh.
freeway?
Do you guys have that?
Well,
I can give you the.
we just got this, and we have this.
This is where the lots are.
Yeah, I
Okay,
see
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I have that.
Oh, you
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Staff colored in for us.
How much acreage is that?
It's about a little over 4.
A little over 4 acres?
Yeah, like 4.06, yeah.
I got a question. You've got a garage.
Yes,
First floor's got 2 cars on it.
yeah.
You have a second unit upstairs? Is that what we're talking about?
Like a mother-in-law,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so it's
So
a,
our plan would be to link the two, have them pretty close by, and link the two at the second story level with a deck. So it'd be kind of separate living space. Our intention is to use the space over the garage as more of an office or family room, TV watching area with a complete bathroom. But it just gives it kind of a nice effect to have the two separate structures.
We don't plan on having our mother-in-law.
Yeah.
did you ask?
You never know.
So we're just, I guess, hoping to get an idea before we get too far along in this to see if it's feasible for you guys to.
I have no problem with manufactured housing. I do have a problem with shed roofs, so I would look for a
What kind of roof?
gable shed roof.
This one is the shed roof, yeah?
No, I
No?
think that's the biggest roof in Gable.
You're talking about this one?
That's a gable.
Yeah,
The first drawing I told you about on
The
page.
shed.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
Page,
yeah, I would
I
say.
couldn't support that at all.
Okay.
Okay,
that's good to know.
yeah.
I kind of like the other ones better myself.
Yeah.
A little more interesting? Even
Yeah.
the one with the dormer.
The shed roof just gives a lot of view possibilities.
So what's the problem with the shed roof, Mr. Commissioner?
I prefer the other kind.
Oh.
Put this in. It's going to be overlooking the city. You're
This
going to
is-
look up there. You want to see a good-looking house.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Because an island house already, you drive through, you see that.
Yeah.
So this is, again, it'll meet the slope, the hillside ordinance. Yeah, but again, it's going to be seen. And since it's going to be seen, we want it, be something that's presentable for the city of San Juan Bautista.
Yeah. I like
But
the
it-
craftsman look.
But it might be advantageous when it comes with solar panels if you want to be solar ready and what have you.
Well, it has to be solar ready.
Pardon me?
Has to be solar ready.
Yes, I know.
So if, just one other, so you can take a look on page 15, we've also considered doing pergola, which might give the shed roof a better look,
A little more.
give it more of a porch. So I don't know if that's something you might consider for the shed roof.
Isn't the Nyland residence a shed roof too?
No,
It's gable?
it's gable.
It's very angular.
Let's see.
I guess one of the things too, if you look on there, like the
Oh,
way
yeah.
they've actually done the outside of that home on page.
It might be a combination.
Or there's actually metal and shingles or siding. Is that something that you guys would not prefer, or you kind of like the look of it? Or they've got, if you look
What
on
page is this?
Page 6, on the front view on the shed roof, where they put
It's actually
metal
more
and
than
wood.
metal
Mm.
and then mix it up. And we thought also maybe doing shingles instead of siding. But the roofing too, we'd also like to do is metal. I don't know if that's an issue or not.
I have a shingle house. I don't recommend shingle.
Yeah, I like
shingles,
to
yeah.
look at shingle.
I like the look of it, but it's hard to maintain.
But there might be a problem with a shed roof because of the slope. if you have a gable, it's more pitched, right? And a shed would be not as a higher pitch. So maybe that's why they prefer metal.
We just like to look at the metal, so we didn't know if that's something that you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes standard with the
Yeah.
metal roof and the
Yeah.
shed configuration, so that's just something that we'd have to discuss with them. But we believe it's an option to do a composite roof as well.
Yeah,
You know, like they have in Tahoe, and
yeah.
yeah, there's all kinds of nice ways to look at that.
Yeah, we would only build something nice.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
don't
you know,
have
we-
any problem with the
We have a lot of
manufactured-
corrugated
manufactured,
metal
no.
buildings downtown, roofs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of driven
Yeah.
around, but
No, I would want to make it.
Where are you guys from?
we actually live currently in Pacific Grove.
Okay,
We're
I knew
Lincoln,
that, yeah,
And so we want to.
It's a great town.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah, we love it. So generally consensus, the corrugated and metal roof are seem to be okay?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the shed style, but
Well, if they had that
material-wise-
porch, that would
Yeah, that kind of
mitigate
gave
a
it
little bit.
a gable look.
Yeah, like I say, the key thing is that you've been down here looking at the Nyland house, and it sticks out. And so yours will also stick out, so we want it to be, something that we want in the city.
Yeah. It's visible from the mission, definitely.
So
Well, I think
I guess
they're-
one
I think
thing
they're
too
right.
is the way the garage faces, would that have to be, I know you guys don't like to have the garage doors facing.
Oh,
You're
more
thinking
welcome,
more of
more
turning it-
welcoming.
Yeah, turning it
Turning
sideways,
it
so.
sideways so you can't really see it. You can see the side of the garage instead
Yeah.
of the actual garage doors.
It's going to be detached, huh?
Yeah.
Two-story.
Yes. We're hoping to get that, there's like a little peninsula at the very top, up by the, there's, I don't know if those buildings across the street are,
The-
they're,
Water reservoir?
The reservoir,
tanks,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. But we were kind of hoping to fit the house up into that little peninsula, which is almost, it's partly protected from, I think, the view.
Huh.
But we'll have to figure that out with the,
Interesting, yeah.
anyway.
Well, I like what I see, so I'm not,
Yeah, I think they're in the right direction.
yeah.
I'm glad they came by, at least
Yeah.
get some
Yeah.
feedback
Yep.
how the city sees it.
Yeah, if we do it early, then we can change the stuff before we spend too much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, just be sure, work with staff and check out the guidelines, and you should be good to go.
So,
Okay?
we got the thumbs up.
I think we have a consensus, do we
Yeah.
not?
We have a
A
consensus
consensus,
that you can move forward with
We'll be
your
looking
many
forward to
plans
that.
and narrow it
See
down
how
to...
the project progresses.
At least 10-story building up there is not going to.
But
No.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah.
I think the bigger problem for us is the engineering.
we do have modular homes here.
We do.
We got on Church Street and on
Oh.
San Antonio.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
I-
north,
I-
not
comments?
San Antonio, but
I'm
north.
I'm sorry.
I'll talk to them tomorrow. And
Sure.
let them know.
Oh, they just left. Okay.
Jolene Cosio, 181 Lime Street, so I'm very close to that property.
All right.
And I walk up that hill all the time. It's a great lot for putting a house on. In fact, if we were to build a second home, my husband would have bought it and put a house there. But we don't have that kind of money. One home is enough. I think it's a good spot, and with that water tank up there, you're not going to do anything worse to the hillside looks.
Than that.
That is ugly. And a little bit of screening, I would think would help. The issues for them, I would think, would be that road was not properly built. Anybody who followed the water project that was done before Roger was here, he would have built it properly, knows that that was taken out of the project and then put back in the project hurriedly. There was never any, what do you call it, the stuff that you put
Base.
under the asphalt?
Base.
Base rock.
Yeah, and sealant and all that. I mean, it's not a very good road, but for one more house, because there's already people going up to the water tank, there's people going up to what used to be the Nyland house. So I don't think a one-home situation would particularly hurt it, and as long as they're very careful, because it is an unstable hillside, about placement, it seems like a very nice lot, and my husband would be disappointed that it might get sold and somebody else will put their
Somebody
house
else
on
got
it.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments on that one? Okay. I'll leave it to staff then, as folks come in, just think you got a feeling of what the city's looking for. What the commission's looking for. Okay.
As you guys recall, you developed the hillside ordinance, and there are some very restrictive steps that they have to take to even position the house where it's at, as well as screening and cutting to where it's not obtrusive to the view shed. And those are the criteria that you guys set in that ordinance.
I think engineering is going to be a bigger issue than design.
How do,
And there are some unstable soil conditions on that property.
and when we compare the hillside with the existing residents, how does it compare as far as what we like to see the hillside look like as far as
Well, you're talking about the Nyland piece, the Nyland house up there.
Yeah.
That lacks the I'm going to say the landscaping that subdues the scar in the hill.
The architectural scar.
That's one of the lacking features of the Nyland house.
But it's workable.
It's workable, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And have they been, when you spoke with them, did you let them know all those, okay, so they're aware of the...
Yeah.
Have they had an engineer come out yet? Or
Not yet. They just wanted to do something informal, get the feel for what the
See if we
commission.
even want it. So
Yeah.
They got support now. Okay, next item, consent agenda. Approve the affidavit of posting note for the agenda, approve the affidavits of posting and mailing of the public hearing notices, and approval of the minutes of February 2nd, 2016.
I don't see anything.
Are there any comments on that from commissioners?
I have nothing to add to the minutes. I would take all three. If
Okay.
nobody else has.
Is there anybody in the public who would like to make any comments on the items on the consent agenda? Okay, the chair entertains a motion for action
I'll move to approve A, B, and C.
for A, B, and C.
I'll second that.
There's a typo error in page 2 of the minutes. If that's just one little letter. It's on
The project.
number 6, public hearing on page 2. You see the word "the project." City manager Grimsley represented the project. That's it.
It wasn't a sheep project, it was a he project.
Well, could have been a he.
Okay, good point, okay.
Um,
Yeah, 50 years from now, people will appreciate the fact that we picked these things up.
Actually, I think we need to take these separately.
Okay.
You have a problem?
She won't be able to vote on the minutes of February because she was not present at that time.
You feel left out?
That's all right.
It's a technicality, I know.
Good point.
Okay, you had a comment on,
No.
oh yeah, okay.
No, that was,
Okay, I'll move to approve items 4A and 4B.
I'll second. Nobody wants to jump in?
Commissioner Guerra,
Aye.
Commissioner Vidaris,
Aye.
Commissioner Grassoff,
aye.
Chairman Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4-0-0-1 with,
Actually, she gets to vote on that one.
oh, that one.
It's all right.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Coe, how would you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously. I got confused.
Okay, that brings us down to 4C, the approval of the minutes of February 2nd. We already have one minor correction. Are there any others? Is anybody in the public who would like to comment on the minutes of the meeting of February 2nd? None? Okay. The chair entertains motion for action.
I move that we approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2016,
With the correction.
with the correction.
Is there a second?
The correction.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Maderas?
Aye.
Commissioner Gretasaff?
Aye.
Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4001. The Commissioner Coe.
Abstaining.
Okay, now we have some public hearings. First one, consider the approval of the amended D'Ambrosio Vista tentative map into 2 phases. Phase 1, lots 1 to 8, Phase 2, lots 9 to 27. And we're looking here for approving the resolution recommending to the council the amendment of the tentative map into 2 phases. And then we're looking for approval of site until, let's get that one after we get see if we're going to do it at all. Okay, staff, you want to tell us about this?
Before that,
We
Yeah.
have a conundrum.
Okay, we have a problem.
there are 3 of us that live within proximity of the site. So
Okay.
Trish, do you have your straws?
I have better than straws.
You have better than straws.
Real-
Pixie sticks.
Real quick, we should probably explain.
Does anybody want to explain what's going on?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what it is if a commissioner's property is within 300 feet of a property that comes onto the agenda, you have to recuse yourself unless you own over a quarter acre, and then that distance is 500 feet. Chairman Maderos, Vanda, and myself are all within range of that. So we take the very highly technical
Decision.
drawing of straws.
So the net result is that we have 2 commissioners that can take action. 3 of them have to draw straws to where they would be the 3rd one.
Oh, toothpicks this time. Nice.
Toothpicks, okay. No, I want that one.
That's it, I get leftovers, huh?
Oh, gee. And what did we decide? This?
What is which?
I think you got the long one, so you're it.
I get to go out?
Yours is short?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, ours are short,
So
so.
you get to stay.
I need to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to take a break anyway. Excuse me.
Okay, we're in recess at 5?
Okay.
Oh, he just,
He needs a 5-minute break.
so who's going to be stepping out? Okay. And then God. This happens every now and then, folks. With a small town, it's kind of hard to get away from some item that's going to be on this planning commission agenda. We had this on the, what is it? Rancho Vista? Oh, no, what's the name of the ranch? What's the name of the
Rancho. No, it would be
Christopher Ranch.
No, what's the name of the project?
Rancho Vista?
Rancho Vista.
Just to pace,
Oh, Rancho Vista.
they wanted to phase it out, just to phase it, or they wanted to
Planning
phase
commission,
it
then
to
those 2
pace
people will excuse
the
and David would be
development.
part of it.
I think we
Is
should.
that henceforth?
Good point.
Because he would be hearing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Each of you would
Oh,
not
so they had to
somehow
rearrange
know
it
how
already.
that's going to be resolved.
I think you're right. I hadn't thought of
Because
that.
this is a big issue.
Yeah, I think we need to be consistent
So,
through the whole story.
should some action be taken or finally?
We'll wait till he gets back, and then we'll make that clear.
And we have to leave the room, right?
Yeah.
Have we already done this on this one before, or was it a different project?
We did it before on,
Well, D'Ambrosio's been up twice now. We approved it, then they changed it, now they're changing it again.
First Street one.
we did it recently on the First Street, one behind my house and Vanda's house.
So we're glad to have you on board, Lorraine, for many reasons.
So when the D'Ambrosio project came up the first time, did you have to recuse? You did, okay.
And,
How about David?
I don't know. I know Georgiana was here and Pat Guerra was here, so they had plenty. So maybe
Oh,
he might,
maybe he was on it.
Oh, no, you're right, yeah, so it would have been the 2 of you would
or
have had
he
to
and I
recuse.
recused ourselves for
Yeah.
Christopher Ranch.
But maybe David wasn't on the commission at that time.
Yeah, he was.
For the Ambrosia?
Yeah, I think he
For the
was.
very first one?
I think so. But he would have had to have recused. Yeah.
Interesting. All this well,
And are we going to continue calling it the D'Ambrosio project? Or?
depends on what they call it. Yeah, D'Ambrosio based the PUD.
So David,
Yes.
we talked about the fact that you should probably be,
This is your permanent station now.
for as long as we're talking about this project, you'll
Oh,
represent
okay.
it because of Ucilla Beach.
Yeah.
With its-
Freak out.
You wouldn't have continuity.
Okay.
Okay, folks, sorry for the interruption here, but there are things that we got to deal with. Okay, so now again, considering the approval of the amended D'Ambrosio Vista tentative map into 2 phases. Staff, you want to brief us on this?
Yeah, so the applicant, Elite Development Incorporated, is presenting to the Planning Commission the proposal of amendment to the D'Ambrosio Vista tentative map, which will result in the phasing of the project into 2 different phases. Phase 1 will consist of lots 1 through 8, improvements to 3rd Street, and the grading of the whole project. And Phase 2 will consist of lots 9 through 27, and the paving of Nicholas Court. So the reason that they're phasing it is because they need to reconfigure the lots in the back. So this gives them plenty of time to do so and do it accurately. And the applicant is in the audience.
Okay, let's get a couple of things going here. So we're actually going to change we're not just saying 1 and 2, we're actually changing some of the lots?
Well, for right, no, the lots are the same, but the way that they're going to configure the homes on it.
Oh, okay.
That's the issue.
Yeah, okay, so, because if they were going to change any of the lot lines, I would say this is going to have to come up for a new application.
No.
So we're
no
good there.
Yeah, no lot lines will be...
No lot line, just
amended.
how they're going to develop it, and they're going to do 1 to 8, and they put in the road, and then Phase 2 will be done after that.
Yes.
Okay. That gives me a good idea. Okay, so anything else you want to say from staff?
No, but the applicant is in the audience. And,
Okay, we'll hear from the applicant then. Mr. D'Ambrosio?
Good evening, Commission. I'm Alan Andra, the project engineer for MH Engineering. And what I have in the audience here is Elite Developments. The owners of Elite Developments who are here to answer any of your questions that come up. From an engineering perspective, from a planning perspective, the project is essentially the exact same as was approved back in 2014. The amendment consists only of the phasing.
Excuse me 1 second, sir.
Excuse me, I have to make an announcement. There's a black Audi that's blocking a parking lot, a parking garage or whatever. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
So what's coming before you today is the amendment to allow the phasing so that the portion along 3rd Street can be developed right away, hopefully this summer, and get completed so the neighborhood gets continuity back. And then after that's done, the Phase 2 would go into place, kind of get 3rd Street taken care of, the 3rd Street Donner intersection completed prior to a bigger project.
So basically, everything on 3rd Street, the roundabout, etc.
Yes.
is all going to be done, and then your new road.
Right.
And the first 8 units.
Yes.
Okay, that's, yeah, because I wasn't sure, because I thought we were going to be redesigning lot lines, but we're just talking about what's going to be done, the order of march, so to speak.
That is the plan right now, just to get the phasing so that those first 8 lots can go, and we can hit this time frame with the good weather during the summer to complete the improvements of the streets and get those weatherized before winter comes.
Okay.
That's the street with the cul-de-sac in, and that's going to go into?
The cul-de-sac itself will be Phase 2.
It will be Phase 2.
But the intersection where 3rd Street and Nicholas Court will intersect, that will be completed through the returns with the handicap ramps, etc.
Okay.
So as questions come up, myself and the developer are here and able to answer your questions when things come up. And I know we did informally propose it in March's meeting, so I'm hopefully all the materials there, you've had a chance to review them. And we do have a new planning commissioner, so if there's any questions that you have, we're happy to address them. Thank you.
Okay, so basically all the conditions of the original, everything's the same except they're going to do engineering and 1 to 8.
Yeah.
So to the innocent observer, nothing's really going to change different, other than the fact they're going to see the roads in there right away.
Public hearing? Public hearing?
Yeah, let's go for that. Okay, is anyone in the public who would like to speak on this subject, for or against?
Are we doing just A or B as well?
The first part, the A. Yeah, design will come second. Let's just talk about, see, because if we say you can't do this, then there won't be a point in hearing B.
Karen
So-
Gibsoff?
Good evening, Council. Karen Gretasoff, 1108 3rd Street, directly across the street from the planned building. First off, I'd like to say congratulations on the purchase of the property, and we're all for change, but there's been a couple concerns. Reviewing the map, one of the main concerns is that where they're saying that there's parking. Living across the street and seeing the street on a daily basis, the section, it looks like from where the dirt starts and the curb starts right at the speed bump, you theoretically can fit 3 cars in there, but they would be bumper to bumper. I mean, tight bumper to bumper. The section up from that going toward North Street, that is a very narrow curb, and I believe that their calculations may be a slight off. It would have to be 3 compact cars getting in on that little sliver, but there's a lot of residents that have trucks or SUVs that park there. So that would be, instead of having the 3, it would theoretically, logistically be only 2 cars there. And then as you keep going up, you're getting closer to that stop sign, and it is a tight squeeze there for 3 cars as well. So just keeping that in mind. Coming back down toward Donner, the widening of the street there, we do have, and myself and my husband have had to park our cars there at the dirt. With that width of a vehicle, you're still having to stop for people to coming over the speed bump. So you cannot get 2 cars passing each other with parking there on 3rd at the speed bump. It's 1 car going through at a time. So keeping that in mind, and then with the speed of the street, there's people speeding through there all the time. I've almost been head on with somebody because they're speeding down coming from Donner, and I'm coming from Main Street. So it's very hard. Visual there as well. There's at least 2 or 3 cars parked in front of the school at any given point in time. So as you're coming out of my driveway there at the speed bump, I've almost been hit because people speeding toward town from Donner. So that whole section right there is just it needs some attention in that area. I like the idea of the turnabout in the middle there at Donner, making sure it is big enough that where people aren't cutting through there. I think it's still going to cause an issue with speeding, as long as, I mean, trying to get that enforced. I do like the speed bump there. The other thing is the suggested parking be nose in at an angle for those homes that are going to be there on the street. That way you don't have straight in parking where there's a potential of a vehicle sticking out into the street or to the side, toward a sidewalk. Then we were, let's see, I had taken some brief notes. I apologize, a little over the time. Most of it is basically just the parking and that concern, and with speed. So I think I pretty much covered everything that my better half wanted to talk on, and as well as my concern as well. But that's pretty much our main concern, is the width of the street and the parking.
Okay.
So, just before you leave and everything, as you recall, the condition for this subdivision was to widen 3rd Street from the west boundary of this subdivision to North Street. That street will be widened.
Roger,
The street speed bumps will be removed.
Okay. Is there going to be any additional speed bumps or plates, speed tables, or whatever they're called, between where the original speed bump is and the roundabout? To kind of help cut down on the speeding through there, because they don't even stop at that stop sign. And I understand the roundabout is kind of going to take place of that stop sign, but if they're still coming around there and whipping around there and doing, I mean, these people are literally gunning it and not stopping for the speed bump. I mean, I don't even know how their cars aren't needing an alignment at this point. Is there anything that can be done to help control the speed on that street, on that portion of the street? So that's my concern. That's my question for the city or for the planning commission.
We can wait until they finish all the engineering improvements here.
Right.
And then see what happens. And at that point, we can appeal the city to take some action on, what do you call it, speed bumps or traffic calming methods.
Okay.
But I think the fact that we're going to be improving that street and fixing everything up, I think that should be a good start. And then once that's in, okay, what has happened, what's occurred, and then go to the second thing, okay. Because up on 7th Street, I know there's a new sign that says, watch for children. And that was because we had some cars moving there pretty fast. Yeah. So I say, as soon as everything's in, see if it improves it, and what's necessary to make it be improved.
Understandable. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just along those lines, there are two provisions. I don't know if I'm reading an old version, but in Resolution 2014, number 12, there's two provisions, number 18 and 19, to put in speed bumps. So
those are on Church and Donner.
Right. So adding another one, perhaps.
If it's needed, we will consider it
at a later date.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
As it says, once all this stuff gets in, it's going to have a major impact on what's happening. So we can see what else might be needed. Okay, are there any other people who would like to speak? See somebody approaching.
Somebody might.
Waiting to see if we had another card. I just want to ask a couple of quick questions. One, it said raised crosswalks or speed bumps. Did it not in the section you were reading? Or in one of the sections?
It doesn't get an or in 18 or 19.
In that one? I thought I saw that somewhere in there. I'm, as I've mentioned before, a big proponent of raised crosswalks as opposed to speed bumps, especially if a speed bump is like the one over by Neil's, where you
it's on 19.
Certain low cars over it.
On number 19, it says the applicant shall install a modified speed bump or alternate raised crosswalks, subject to approval of the city manager. On Church Street.
I like raised crosswalks. But my question is something that we've discussed several times at Strategic Planning Committee, which is getting a one dig policy, I believe it's called, for the city, where when you dig for, you can probably explain it better than I can, because I don't fully understand all the fiber optic, but you put in an extra
conduit pipe.
An extra conduit for that. Yeah. Is any of that going to be done with some of these new projects?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. Good. So that's just something that you asked them to do, because we don't actually have a policy on it yet, do we?
Yeah, we have a policy on it.
We do.
And that policy is that conduit is city-owned. So we have to buy the conduit and place it in the trench when they're doing the joint trench.
Okay, so we don't actually put fiber optic in, but we put the conduit so that if somebody wants to put fiber optic in, they have to pay back the city.
The fiber optic won't be installed until the complete system is functional, and then they can thread the fiber optics into
in the year 2585 or so.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In this area anyway.
Thank you.
It's incremental.
That's why we're San Juan.
The speaker?
Yes, Selena Kennedy.
Hi, Slim Kennedy. I live on 1103 3rd Street.
I have a few concerns about the phasing. Phase 1, you mentioned that you were going to be doing the grading and the widening. I don't know what you're taking out from my front yard, where the widening ends, stops. I haven't seen anything about that. I've heard rumors, but haven't seen anything. Also, the speed bump, we really actually need something there and to be done sooner rather than later. Just this last week, my nephew's here with his child. They're riding on his little bike on the sidewalk area, in the unpaved area. He's riding his bike, and we've got people coming up Donner, not stopping and continuing on. And my nephew asked him to slow down, and they challenged him, and they asked him to get out of the car and, get into a fist fight. So, we've got angry people coming through there and that want to get through to town quickly. They're avoiding going around because of the many stop signs.
Right.
So they run Donner, they run north, and they just keep going.
I hope he reported this incident.
Well, I saw the sheriff go by, so I stopped him and asked him to keep an
Good.
eye on it.
No, but the driver's license, the vehicle license numbers. I mean, I think important. People should not have to be in a situation where they're threatened
Sure.
or have to live under that
Sure.
kind of a thing.
Sure. And that's why I mentioned it to the sheriff, just, come by during, when the company's out in the valley or either getting out of work or at lunchtime, because that's where people are rushing through into town to get lunch or go home. So that's a shortcut. So we really need to do something about that, like I said, sooner than later and not after the construction.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about phase 1. They're going to be cutting all the grading, and on 3rd Street, excuse me, I'm right there, and so I'm concerned with the dust and just what the time of construction. I'm sure it's going to be, 7 to 4, 7 to 3.
Oh, that's all in the conditions of approval.
Okay, well.
And dust, when you reach a certain wind velocity, they have to stop work because that is an issue.
Yeah, because we have that wind every night, every day, 1 o'clock it starts. So, I'm concerned about the dust and what's coming into my home because it's dusty already. So, with all the big equipment moving around.
Yeah, go ahead and make all your comments because after the public speaks, the developer, the representatives will be able to come up again and respond to anything that might need response to. But at least your comments are being noted, and the developers are concerned that they do it right.
I appreciate that. May I continue?
Oh, yes, please.
Time's done?
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. Our home is situated where all the runoff during the rain, it comes off Church, comes off town, and it just filters right down, and it just comes into our backyard. Everything's higher, we're getting lower, and then it just filters all in, and we're flooded. So we have 2 pumps, and it has to pump out the water. So I'm concerned about the drainage and what's going to be there. I'm sure they're going to do a good job, but I just want it to be noted that there is a problem already.
You might be able to comment on that too.
And then also, I noticed with these plans, they've changed, I guess, the property line, the homes going right up towards the cemetery. Prior, they were kind of not behind my house, but now they're behind my house. So I'd like something, maybe some mature landscaping. I don't know what's planned. I haven't looked at the landscaping plans, but maybe some mature trees to help us out, on the homes on that area. So I think what's that mine? The existing road now on the the east side. It's supposed to be painted red. It's not red, so people are parking there now, And so now with construction beginning, are there going to be people parking, vehicles along that stretch of the road? It needs to be repainted red because it is really a...
Oh, you mean on the condo side?
Yes.
On the
Yes.
opposite side where you are?
Yes. It's gone.
On my
And-
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've asked, to repaint it, and no.
Well, let's see what happens, because you're going to have a lot of vehicles. They're just going to go wild out there.
Yeah, and
They're only
it's
doing-
wild out right now, and construction hasn't begun. I mean, right now, people are parking in driveways, half in the road, half not.
Well,
I mean, getting
but
fingered
again-
when people are trying to pass, and
But again, like I said, all these vehicles are part of the solution. The construction workers, the the equipment that comes in there, it's all part of the solution. And so it's going to probably be a pain for a while. But when all this is done, you're going to end up with a new road. Hopefully your flooding is going to be taken care of, landscaping, new neighbors. I mean, this could be very nice. But again,
it will be very nice.
it's
but
just having
what
to put
happens-
up with all this stuff during the thing. I mean, during the
But
development.
is that a red lane now? If it is, paint it red so people don't park there. If you've changed the regulation, let us know.
I've lived here for 3 years, and we've been bringing it up even before being on the planning commission. So it's been something that's been brought up. I know I brought it up several times about the red curb. I call the sheriff every single time somebody's parked on the red curb.
Every new owner, every new buyer in that area, they start parking there. And you can't, it's not wide enough, as you know. It's not wide enough. That's why you're widening it in this development.
Which is understandable, and thank you for that, but we still need something now.
Enforce
To guide that
the regulations now, during and after.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Well,
That's all I have to
they're
say.
telling us those are all local residents that reside there that are parking there?
Yeah, or their guests,
Mhm.
And, one time the sheriff was there and he said, oh, they're just gonna be there for a few minutes, don't worry about it. But, come on, Brown.
It's a traffic hazard.
Yes, it is.
Especially when you can't get one car down that street right now, as it is, and then you have a car parked there, and then nobody can get on the street.
I can understand an emergency situation, but
Exactly.
not parking.
Yeah, those are just my concerns, so.
Well, thank you. Like I
for
said, I think Mr.
listening
Andrade
and-
will respond to quite a few of them. Any other speakers on this? For or against or in between?
I don't have any more speaker cards.
Is there anyone that we missed that would like to comment on the D'Ambrosio project's realignment for phasing and for engineering improvements? Okay, Mr. Andrade, I guess we'd like to hear from you. Smooth up a lot of feathers here and tell us what's happening.
Great. It's very nice to have the opportunity to come back and try to give some comfort level to the residents, because these are issues that were brought up back from 2012, 2013, 2014, the two other times that this project came through. The project has tried to incorporate solutions to these problems that are raised. So 3rd Street is a condition to be widened. That section that is extremely narrow and is the primary concern here. From North Street to the project will be widened 4 feet to give enough room for that parking on one side, plus the 2 lanes. So when it was mentioned that the exhibit for the parking was incorrect, those numbers are after the fix. So that's part of the solution, is to give that extra width so that there are 2 travel lanes and enough room for 1 strip of parking as it's being used now. If it was possible, we'd go back in time and remedy where they put the sidewalk on the east side. That was kind of the impetus of the problem. They're trying to save undergrounding that existing overhead line. You'll notice that there's power poles there right next to the back curb.
Yeah.
That's kind of the impetus. That's what led to the situation that's here now. And this project has taken those concerns into light, worked with city staff and your comments from the Planning Commission and the public at those 2 other meetings to really implement a solution that works the best within reason. Speed, we know that's a problem. That's why there is the condition for the turnaround and the speed bump or raised crosswalk. Those are a part of the plans, and the sooner we can get the plans approved, the phasing actually allows for that work on 3rd Street to get done as soon as possible this summer. So we appreciate your approval if we can get that tonight so that we can get started on the work as soon as possible. The concerns with the construction, as you mentioned, were addressed with the mitigation measures required for this project. And so construction time is limited, construction during high winds is limited, and really the project applicant intends on getting 3rd Street done, and the phasing actually allows for phase 2, the grading. Construction traffic, construction vehicles, to whatever extent practical, can be parked off-site and won't exacerbate the problem that you've got on 3rd Street right now. Runoff, the drainage issue that was brought up, that is the intent of this project, and that is the design to solve those problems that they have with drainage right now. And as I've worked on other projects in the city, things that were drainage issues in the past, when we get the chance to go construct it, that's the time that we can fix it. If the project's not approved, you're going to be stuck with the drainage issues that you have right now. Parking, the nose-in parking that was brought up, was something that I considered when
Nose-in angle?
Yeah, when Commissioner Brezatoff brought it up at the informal hearing. And it really just, there's not enough space to really implement the nose-in parking. But the parking exhibit that you mentioned shows how, what looks like it's really bad right now. The project actually allows you to have a street that's twice as wide. And it's my feeling that, conforming to the standard city street in the new section of development will alleviate the concerns that you have with, even because just parking on the dirt, that's not, you're going to get another travel lane and parking. So you're getting an extra 20 feet of paved area that is actually usable. So that's how we intend to alleviate those parking problems that are right now. Nose-in parking, when I looked at it, we could do it, but you would eliminate parking on one side of the street, so you have that problem with the red curb, where even when it's painted red, you still have people parking there. We prefer to stand...
The problem right now is the curb is not red.
Right. So,
and it's supposed to be red.
So that's something that since we do have that section where we are doing lighting, but it's still going to be parking only on one side, that the project, if it's not red by the time the project gets closed out by the inspector, we'll make sure that it's red, and there's no problem in that being included as one of the conditions of improvement to make sure that the city street, when it's actually done and adopted by the city, conforms to all your requirements. Unless there was anything else, I didn't have any notes on anything else that was brought up. So if the staff or anything else comes up, we are still here to answer your questions. Okay. Thank you.
Like I said, what you're doing is part of the solution. Okay, based on Mr. Andre's comments, does anyone like to speak?
Saw a hand go up.
Would you come up to the speaker, the podium, please?
I just wanted to know if they had a solution for the, or if you thought about the mature tree landscape.
So thank you for reminding me on that part. So you mentioned that there was a previous plan that didn't have a rear of a lot right back up to your house. And, that development had 40 units, and we're back down to 27. One of the trade-offs was that we didn't have that open space landscape area. But it is still an open space landscape area, it's just a private backyard. So what you will get as part of the project is you'll get a new retaining wall, because there is a great difference there that needs to be taken care of, and a new fence on top. And then the backyard landscaping for that private house would be, the same requirements that you would have for your own backyard landscaping, which I know the city has problems with nuisance backyards. They have regulations to govern those. But beyond that, I don't think you have any backyard landscaping requirements.
Not that I know of.
So as far as a buffer, it would be a fence as part of the plans as proposed right now, and a private backyard that would include landscaping within the guidelines of whatever the city has.
Okay, thank you very much. Staff, got any questions?
And the answer to that is condition 23 of the approval required a fence along the back of those lots, and then we have a landscaping and lighting district that will be formed.
Okay. Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, I guess we're back to the commission. Commissioners, do you have any comments, or since we have all the principals here?
There were there's two different mentions of, how do you refer to it? Secondary units or duets. And both of them say they may be part of the required compliance, but they don't state that they are part of the.
Yes, there's a secondary unit ordinance, and that has to be approved on a one-by-one basis.
Okay, so there's no plans for pre-existing.
It's discretionary at this time. They can use the secondary units or duets, or they cannot, and then they would have to either market the houses that are less valuable, or pay the in lieu fee.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a, we call granny units,
Right.
all kinds of things. Okay, based on all this, we do have a resolution in here that would allow them to, let's see, revise tentative map, which would include the phasing. Let's see, it's 2114. So it's resolution 2016 XX.
Mm-hmm.
1616.
And on the third.
1616?
1616. And on the third whereas, second line, change if to of. Oh, there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, based on this, it appears it's the same language as the original one. It's just that we're going to do it in two phases.
Right.
So, rather than the conditions of approval have been out, they've been available for review, and so I would not want to read them. So, based on what we've heard, discussed, the chair will entertain a motion for action.
I'll move to adopt. Do I need to read this out?
Resolution 2016-16?
Yeah, Resolution 2016-16.
Would you read the title for the record?
A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the amendment to the D'Ambrosio Vista PUD tentative map, Phase 1, Lot 1 through 8, and Phase 2, Lots 9 through 27.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
I have a second.
We have a motion, we have a second, we call for the vote.
Commissioner Medeiros.
Aye.
Commissioner Coe.
Aye.
Chairman Franklin.
Aye.
With 3 members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 3-0-0-2.
Three up, two down.
2 abstain. And just back from city clerk conference and looking at minutes, they say that where it says abstain, I'll put recuse.
Good, yeah.
So we'll be specific on the resolution.
Number.
16.
1616.
16 is already taken.
No, that is it.
No.
2016.
16 is already taken.
Okay.
At the last meeting, you went up to 17.
Did I?
So it has to be 18.
18.
18.
Okay.
I looked at my list, that's not what I came up with.
That doesn't take a
Must
vote.
have missed on the last 2 now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't take a vote, that's just administrative.
It's administrative.
Yeah.
Okay, now the second thing that we're going to talk about
Yep.
is the consider the approval for site and design review for D'Ambrosio Vista lots 1 to 8, phase 1. And so we want to get the approval of the site and design. Okay. So they've given us some housing locations. And we also have some elevations. Okay. See, Rudy, you want Mr. Andre to make the presentation on the... or do you have a staff report you want to talk about?
Well, pretty much the they came in March 1st to do an informal as far as their what their proposed models will probably look like. So this is just the next step in doing the site and design review for the first 8 models or the first 8 lots.
For phase 1.
For phase 1. The applicant did give us the elevations. They are as attachments. There also is a landscape plan and a proposed parking model. So the applicant is in the audience and available for further question.
Hi, would you like to talk about your designs?
Hello, my name is Harjeet Tat. It's my brother Jagjeet Tat, for the record. And our goal for the design review is basically twofold. In understanding the value the community has on preserving its history and maintaining its ambiance, our first goal was to make sure that these houses fit in the character of the existing development, the existing houses that surround it. And secondly, our goal was to, within our 8 homes, be able to provide diversification so it doesn't look like 8 homes are, tract homes are basically just put in spot. So first what we did was basically drive the area, drive the neighborhood, drove around all the other neighborhoods in the area, and decided on 3 different distinct types of architecture. The first being a cottage style, second being a craftsman, and the third being a Spanish style. And I'd like to note, on the pictures you guys got, there's a tower on the top right, but those are eliminated from all designs. Those won't be existing.
Oh, so they're different.
Yeah. They're just, here we can show.
Oh, the craftsman,
Yeah, the craftsman and the...
Yeah, there's... They messed it up and gave them the wrong ones. There's like a little tower on the other ones.
Oh.
And you'll notice on these there's like no tower.
Okay, it's like, looks like a chimney sort of?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it was oversight.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing, you just take off.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah,
that's, yeah.
Oh, the bell tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been eliminated.
Just on the Spanish style home, it'll be there.
Uh-huh.
But that's what we're proposing.
Right, so in following the lead of the existing subdivision in the
Will you speak into the mic more?
Sure. Following the lead, the existing subdivision in the area, where they have a few different elevations, but they use techniques as changing materials, design, and different color palettes and different textures. We're able to further diversify these 3 different elevations so that the houses along the street won't look similar.
If it's convenient, you can pull the mic out and just hold it. Yeah, color people need it.
I prefer this way. And with that, I mean, if you guys have any questions, we can try to answer them.
Okay.
So are the colors that we're seeing, like, they look all the same? Is that an accurate representation?
Which colors are you looking at?
Yeah.
On the drawings?
You have
Yeah.
3 different, those are the 3 that we're looking at, but all 8 of them will be a little bit different. We drove around, if you want to go show them these. We drove around, we took pictures of homes in the same area, and they all seem to have a similar color palette, neutral, earth tones, and we're planning on doing that with the 8 different units. And that one kind of looks black and white, I know, but it looks good in person. It's like a gray, and when you have, so one of the Spanish style roof will have, well, Spanish tile roof, obviously, and the other ones will be
The color pattern.
shingles.
Yeah.
With the colors, we basically try to emulate the existing houses in the area and work with the architect and try to find something visually pleasing, something that doesn't stray too far away from the current neighborhood. And with our design, I believe we have, how many craftsmen we have?
I think 2 craftsmen.
4 cottage, and then I think
3 and 2.
3. So 3 craftsmen, 3 cottage, and then 2 Spanish, and then 3 Spanish, and then 2 cottage, and then I think the design is actually on your guys' sheet there. Yeah. 2 of the houses will have front entry, and one of them has a side entry, and
they are all staggered on 3rd Street, so you're not looking at a straight row of homes.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good design.
Gives it a little different. And the road, the way it's shaped already, kind of helps that anyway. So it just kind of flows with it.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's not going to look like a tract unit.
Yeah.
And I like the staggered front yards.
Yeah, the lots are deeper than they are wide, so that was something that we were able to mitigate the wideness by pushing some back and pulling some forward.
Okay. Are there any plans for second units on any of the first 8?
Not as of right now, no.
Okay. Okay. Let's hear, once you have a seat, and we'll hear from the public and see if anybody wants to make any comments or see any
Do you want
pictures.
your pictures back?
Too bad we don't have any displays.
Yeah.
Do you want these back?
If you had some tape, we could, if you have a Scotch tape, we could put them on that board there behind you.
We could pass our copy around.
Yeah.
Well, more people would see it if we just kind of spread them up there.
There's
In the meantime, so far, is anybody would like to speak on anything at this time? Or you want to wait till he gets all the pictures up first?
I have a speaker card from Karen Gretasoff.
Ms. Gretasoff, come on.
If you don't mind just 1 minute so I can take notes and
Oh, okay.
if there's any concerns. I'll go sit down. Sorry.
Karen Gertisoff, 1108 3rd Street. I thought they were all kind of tied together.
Hold on a second.
1 second.
You okay? You ready? Tell me when you're ready, because it's important for you to get the notes. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were all kind of tied together to the number A when I was reading it. I apologize. In looking at the designs for the homes, they're all going to be 2-story homes, or is there going to be single-story homes as well? Is one concern. And then as far as, are we just talking about the design of the home, or are we also talking landscaping as well?
Right now, the design of the homes. I think landscaping is already covered in the conditions of approval.
Okay.
There'll be a landscaping plan, but right now, what are we going to put on the lots?
So the basic design of the home. So I guess my only concern is that if they're all going to be 2-story homes, or if there's going to be multiple levels, because if you look at Donner and Awani and Donner and Awani, the project there's different
A variety of things, 1-story and
correct
and a 2-story.
Yeah,
I don't see any single stories here.
Yeah,
I don't either.
So that would be my question, is if we're going to have, because throughout town, we have single stories, we have double stories, we have a lot, but if we're going to have one division that has just 2-story homes, it's going to look like it's offset. I mean, that was the biggest concern about Awani that I was hearing when we first moved here, was that they all kind of, there was that stagger. It wasn't a concern, it was more of it looks, staggered, but that division was different than what town is. So if we're trying to get to look like town and get it to look like San Juan, they're all 2-story homes.
Okay, if you notice, if on the site plan, it's on the curb and the setbacks are different.
Correct.
So you're not going to have one line of, a wall of 2-story buildings.
No, I understand
It's
that.
going to be,
I understand that, but if you're driving in from that way and even though they're offset, they're all 2-story homes. So it's still a 2-story home subdivision, basically, versus something that kind of tries to tie into the city.
okay, thank you. Do you have any other speakers?
Is Selena Kennedy?
Mrs. Kennedy?
She left. Okay, Cara Vaughn?
Hi.
Hi, thank you, members of the Planning Commission. Cara Vaughn, 609 3rd. I just took a look in the binder today, so it was my first look at the homes. And my first reaction was I was wondering if they reviewed our design guidelines. The homes look very monolithic. And I agree with the other speaker. I mean, they're all 2-story. They look really monolithic. I didn't see many wall breaks. The second stories aren't even set back. I wonder if the garages are recessed. The garages are, a dominant feature of the front. Where's the front door on some of, maybe the second one. I don't see the front door. Front doors are really important feature of the front of a building. It's welcoming to the community. What else? The Spanish style, when I first saw that, to me it looked pseudo-Mediterranean, and I don't think it fits within our community at all. To me it looks like one of those little McMansions that you would see in other housing developments. So my personal view is that the design of these homes does not fit into the San Juan community. And I agree with the speaker, there should be, they're too monolithic. And this is also going to be on a hillside, so they're going to look even larger. They're going to be looming over some of the smaller homes below it. Thank you.
Then I'll skip a couple in the next one we fix that.
Do we have any more speakers?
No, I have no more speaker cards.
Okay, that's it. Does anybody missed out, didn't get their card up? Okay, we'll go to the commission now. Commissioners.
Might want to repeat to staff what probably staff missed as far as what was the concerns. Because as far as this project is going, it's all 2 stories, no single stories going in. That was a concern, and they were too monolithic. And just to bring you up on that, pretty much it, right?
That's about it, yeah.
And the garages are right.
You said one of them, I think they said the access was from the side, not from the front, so there wouldn't be a front door, there'd be a side front door.
Yeah, it looks like Model A is that way.
So but you're right about garages. Unfortunately, that is a major feature of so many houses, and even in very high-end subdivisions.
I would like to hear from the 2 gentlemen.
Okay.
And if they have any...
like to respond to some of the comments you've heard?
The garages, they are, there's a difference between the patio and the garage. On the first model, they're set back from the garage, and the front entrance is, comes out a little bit. So you dig it.
So the garage is recessed back?
Yes, exactly, on both sides. And same thing on the model number 1. That patio is in front of the garage, so the garage is also recessed. And on on number 3. On number 1 of the side entrance, it's not as much, but the entrance on the side, when you go around the side, it has a large open entrance, and you walk in, it's going to be a big 2-story opening inside. The roof lines on the 2nd story, some, like on Model 1, it'll be set back. On the Model 2, where the 2 garages are, it'll be sitting on top of the garages, also be set back. So there is a lot of different variation on these houses, as setbacks go. The concern about Model 2 looking too Mediterranean, that we actually modeled after a house just 2 blocks down on 2 Donner Street. And if you drive around that circle neighborhood, there's, I'm going to say, another 7 or so different houses just like that in the neighborhood. The other concern about being on the hillside, so they'll look really tall, is this is actually on the flat part down on 3rd Street's flat. The hill comes into play when you go into the back into phase 2. So the backyards of these, they go up a little bit, but we're building this all on the flat. It's just going to be hopefully just traditional slab on grade, no piers or anything needed like that for it.
Regarding the 2-story or single-story, we worked with the architect pretty hard to try to create a scheme that allowed single-story, but these lots are so narrow that you would literally be walking in and the house would be a huge hallway. We thought that would deter any potential buyer and actually be an inefficient use of space. If we can continue working with the architect, however, that wasn't lost on us to try to do that.
I think those are the main concerns.
Right. I think so. We have a hand. There's a hand that came up in the back.
What's the average size of the homes that you guys are looking to put on these lots? Go ahead. Go ahead and answer the question.
They're 2,500 to 2,700 square feet.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying about the single story look like a big long hallway. Does the house have to be that big? I mean, that's a huge house. I have a 2,000 square foot house. It's huge for me. So can you bring down the size of the house to be able to allow for a single story home where it's not a hallway? I mean, that's.
Excuse me.
Instead of, okay.
So that's kinda,
wait a minute, Mrs. Gressop.
Yes.
And from the public, everybody has to come up to the podium
sorry.
because it's been recorded.
Sorry.
And
My
all it,
apologies.
if you're addressing the planning commission, and the folks are here to support. So all comments here, and anything that is going to be given to the commission should go through our clerk. She will hand anything that's being given, she give it to her, and she will distribute it. And that way we have full control. She has her official copy, and everything works nicely. Okay.
Sorry.
Go for it.
That was just my concern. The size of the houses have to be so, he's making the statement that they're about 2,700 square feet. That's a huge house, and I'm not a developer. I'm not telling him what size to put his house, but is there a way to configure the house smaller in square footage to be able to do a single family, to be able to do that staggered?
Mm-hmm.
That's my concern.
Thank you.
To go single family, I think single story. Sorry, I think the bottom floor is roughly 1,100 per floor, so it would bring the size down by half. Even if we could add 300 square feet more, it'd be like 1,300 square feet. And 27 would be on the larger scale. Average, I'd be I think about 25. So. Yes, like I said, we can continue to work with our architect, try to find some schemes to create better elevation lines. However, at this time, this is what we've come up with.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've had a lot of input. We've had a lot of responses. Is there anybody who wants any other comments before I bring it back to the commission?
If they're going to allow us to speak without speaker cards, Jolene Cosio, 181 Lang. I leave it completely up to the planning commission because I know nothing about housing design and all that sort of stuff, but I would like to bring up the affordable housing aspect of it. And if they were to build some of the homes, and I know we're only talking about 8 homes right now, but they are the 8 that present to the street. If they were to consider at least one model that was in the smaller range, it would help us to meet our affordable housing goals.
Very good point.
Glad you brought it up.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Anything else you would like to add to your presentation?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, where are we?
Well, in reviewing what I've heard from the public and what I understand from, I'm really comfortable with the designs, what have you, but is there another design that we could look at that would break it down somewhat? And what about affordable homes? That's, I believe when we look at the project itself, phase 1, I think we still have a little time to go over this and perhaps carry it over into another meeting and see if they can come back with something different.
Okay. They did offer, so
Yeah.
I can go with that.
So that's where I'm at right now. If there's an opportunity to look at lower income homes, also with elevations, I'd really like to look at that.
And we're talking
especially if these are right on the front street.
And we're not, when we're talking lower income homes, we're not talking poor people. We're talking young couples who want to get into a house that can't because, they're $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. They can't do that. So something that would be much less than that would be called affordable.
That was part of our plan for the phase 2 of the project as well, is to offer more affordable housing, maybe move some lots around, do some duplex style homes, just to give it affordable housing.
Okay, so they're thinking. Would you like to continue?
Mr. Andrew.
Oh, Mr. Andrew.
I just wanted to add to what he said about the potential for doing something like this in phase 2, is they have discussed it internally. And we understand that, doing something alternate to what was approved on the tentative map in 2014 is a difficult stance. So the phasing, allowing us to go ahead with phase 1, kind of sets it in stone. They know what they can do on phase 1. And some of these ideas that have been brought up can be implemented in this phase 2, but it will come back through you for an approval on that type of information. So all the input that you've given today, that the public's given today, is being considered. They're recording it, and they'll work with their architect to develop something that provides a wider range of affordability in the second phase.
Okay, thank you. Want to continue to the June meeting?
Pardon me?
You want to go?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, go ahead and motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this through the next meeting,
We
next
have a
month.
second.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded. Call for the vote. These are tough votes here.
Commissioner Cook,
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros,
Aye.
Chairman Franklin.
Aye.
3 members of the board being present, or commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3-0-0 to approve.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
You're going to go back in. Commissioners.
See, that was... Okay, now we have something interesting. Oh, we got to get some commissioners back here.
Now, do you think we left them with enough instructions?
I think so.
You think so?
'Cause
Okay.
They offered to come back
yeah.
with something, so they
Yeah.
knew that was good.
Okay. I wasn't too sure.
Did you find our planners? Good. Because
I had met with the group.
No, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Okay, the next item we have is 5C. Consider approval of site and design review for 415 7th Street minor subdivision, front 2 lots, lots 26 and 27, elevations only. The applicant is L. Vias, and your chairman has a conflict.
We're going to be continuing this item.
Continue?
Continue
Okay.
this item to another meeting.
What meet, June? July?
We'll just say to a future meeting right now.
Okay, to future. Okay.
So I don't see any.
Okay, because I would have had to leave, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, D, review and comment on initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the Copperleaf subdivision project situated on the north side of San Juan Hollister Road, 300 feet east of Salinas Grade Road. Who's going to talk about this one?
Again, this is a continuation of the last meeting where you're discussing the environmental impact report. And Kathy's here.
Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, Catherine A. Strike with Edenbridge Homes, and I am here to also listen to the public comment. And if you could call on me at the end, I might be able to answer any questions. I do have a couple consultants here with me tonight. I have our traffic engineer, and I also have our civil engineer if there's any questions that they can answer.
Thank you. Somebody going to make a presentation? Or are we just going to comment on the neg deck?
What's our step here,
Well,
Roger?
we're just continuing the comment period that has to do with the mitigated neg deck. Any comment that we have from the public, we'll accept. The deadline is May 13th. That's when all that'll be the end of the review period. So pretty much these hearings have been conducted to receive public comment and input on the mitigated neg deck for the proposed subdivision.
Okay, the document looks like this. Mitigated negative declaration, initial study and negative declaration. This has been made available to the public, and right now it is in the review period. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this thing, good, for, or indifferent? Do we have any cards on the neg deck? I see.
Jolene Cosio?
Jolene Cosio, 181 Lenning Street. My comments haven't changed a lot from the previous time that we talked about this. My concerns remain that this is still a property that's in the county. It feels a little like we're rushing it, putting the cart before the horse, approving all this stuff when it's not even in the city yet. The property, I'm not sure that we've taken enough time to fully examine the earthquake issues, the water issues, and especially the issue of the city well. I have a big problem with moving a city well to accommodate a developer. It's surprising. It doesn't quite make sense to me because we discussed that well and it needs to be re-drilled. But we discussed re-drilling it something over 100 feet from the original so that you know that you are still in the same aquifer. I don't know that the same aquifer is going to be there by the road, and I don't know that it's not going to be higher in nitrates. And yes, I'm not an expert, and hopefully we're having experts look at this, but it makes me very nervous to approve a project that includes moving a city well without fully examining what we're going to do instead of using that well. Currently, it's one of only 2 wells that we're using, and I realize we're getting ready or in the process of drilling a well to replace well 3, which has been unused for a long time because of high nitrates. And it is across the road and down the road from this existing well 2, which we're still using, even though it needs to be recased or re-drilled with new casing or all that. So it feels like we're moving a little fast to approve something that we really need to take a hard look at before doing. Never mind the fact that I believe we will have to prove to LAFCO before annexing that property to the city that we can service this many more homes. I have my doubts.
Thank you.
Carl Hong?
Thank you, members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to be a little bit like a broken record because I addressed my concerns to you last time. I addressed the City Council with the same concerns, and I want to make sure it's part of the record. In my view, the environmental review is not adequate because it does not adequately cover the cultural resources. The CEQA requires that the city, as lead agency, hire an architectural historian to review what are potentially historic resources on the property, and that includes the barn and possibly the railroad right-of-way that was there for the cement plant. These are both important historical features in our city. The legislature deems that cultural resources, natural and cultural resources, are important to the community and to the public in general, and that's why they give you authority to regulate it. So I would urge the city to hire an independent architectural historian, not a consultant to the developer. And apparently there's some reports, I looked for them, they weren't there. But even an absence of information does not mean, that somehow these are not historically significant. An architectural historian can review the history, research the history. We should at least have that, know what we've had, and then they can give their opinion on whether it's salvageable, and then they can give us options on what to do. It might be, demolish, but it could be, hey, fix it up. Here are alternatives that you can do with it. I assume this development, if there are 45 units, it's going to have, about 150 people living there eventually? Maybe they need a rec center. Maybe the kids need a basketball court. Last time I mentioned that it would be perfect for a farmer's market because there's access off of Highway 156. It would mean eliminating lot number 10 off of this plan. So I just think this is way premature, and I agree with the prior speaker. This hasn't even been approved yet by LAFCO. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other speakers?
I don't have any other speakers.
Okay, commissioners.
Is anybody going to speak on behalf of the study? Respond to some of these concerns or questions?
Do you have someone who could comment on the report based on the comments?
Let's see. The earthquake issues, there was a geotechnical report, and there was also a seismic report that was prepared. A lot of time and money went into that, and the actual dashed line that you see on the tentative map is an earthquake setback. It doesn't mean the fault is there. It means that that's a setback. And we used a very, very conservative geotechnical consultant, and so we feel that setback is adequate. We actually trenched quite a few trenches. They were 100 feet long. They went 38 feet deep. They did not find the earthquake fault. So that answers that. Let's see. The city well. I think the city manager can speak to that. And the LAFCO meeting, as I understand it, is taking place on May 26th. So that'll be later on this month, and that will be, hopefully LAFCO will approve the project before it comes back to you in June. On the cultural resources report, typically the archaeological reports are not included in the public review. The city manager has a copy of the cultural resources report that was prepared for the city. An archaeological historian was hired, and there is a report on the barn, and there was also another report that was done in the year 1999 by Caltrans, and that report is also on file with the city manager. And the reason that the archaeological reports are not included for public review is that there are sensitive maps included in those reports, and as you all know, that there's a huge black market, and so those maps are not circulated for public review, although I did give them to Roger, and they're readily available at his office. They can come down to City Hall and read the reports. They can't remove them from City Hall, and that's just how that's usually done. So
we didn't see them. No, we haven't seen them. I wouldn't consider us the public.
Roger, the city manager, has them. They're not.
Okay.
You can come in and examine them.
Okay.
The discussion of the
They
reports.
can't leave the site.
They cannot leave the city hall, but the discussion of the reports is included in the mitigated neg deck. There's a whole cultural resources section in that you should have read, or it's available to you to read, and it talks about both of those reports. And the archaeological historian agreed with the 1999 conclusions of the Caltrans archaeological historian. So there's two reports that have been written considering the barn. And I do want to, I think I told you the last time I was here that the Mannings, the first time I met the Mannings, both Tom and Kathleen, Tom, the first thing he said to me is that he was keeping the barn and he wanted to demolish the barn. He was going to rebuild it on another property. And I said, fine, it's in our purchase agreement. The Mannings have ownership of the barn. Shortly after that, Tom became very ill. I don't know if you know, he's been in and out of the hospital. And so he has not been able to demolish the barn and take it to another property, but that is his request. And so I'm going to abide. I would hope the commission would also abide by his request. I think, did I cover everything? Oh, the railroad right away. There's a granite marker that is actually, you can, if you, by the way, we were going to take a tour of the property, so we will do that before. I'm going to try to see if I can't get it disc so we can walk it. Can't guarantee anything before your June meeting, but there's a granite marker that you can actually see as you drive by the property. It's actually fronting on San Juan Hollister Road, and that granite marker is going to stay in place. And that talks about the railroad and the historical site that was there.
Wow. And open space? There was some concern about open space. There wasn't enough of it or something like that. Did you have anything to say about that?
On the site, on the tentative map, if you look to the east, we have a whole area set aside for a park next to our water quality basin, so it's a pretty large area of the site, and it's actually within the earthquake setback zone, and so that'll be developed as a community park for this community. Is that what you're talking about for the open space?
All right. There was a question about that.
Yes. Did I forget anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah. If the commissioners have any questions too, our consultants are here.
That's all I got right now.
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Like I say, you still have until the 13th to review and comment.
I have...
and if you find any typos and stuff on there, document, just call in staff and they can make the appropriate changes.
What is the procedure? I know there's been some discussion both in meetings and on the street about the properties currently in the county, and the city seems to be making a lot of maneuvers on a property that's not even in our city yet. Is that typical for a project like this? Is that...
It's not typical and stuff like that, because a lot of projects complete their annexation. In this case here, the property was pre-zoned, and it went to the city council, and it was pre-zoned, and they also adopted, clear back in February, a resolution for it to annex and proceed. And that application has been forwarded to LAFCO. It was supposed to be handled in April, but they discontinued the meeting, and so they continued over there. The application has been submitted for annexation to come into the city. We have submitted the necessary reports to show that our ability to provide service, not only on water, sewer, and law enforcement, and planning services. And so.
Okay.
I'd be curious to know what measures on those three particular items are being taken, if any. Water, I know we've got a fourth well being done. I'd love to know what's happening with this well complete. I'd love to know what policing is proposed to happen. I mean, this will be between this project, D'Ambrosio, and Rancho Vista, we're going to be adding 25% population increase on a city that is effectively very under-policed as it is. And so from a citizen point of view and a person who also works with Neighborhood Watch, I'm very concerned about this influx of residents and what the overall plan is for that. And that's something I haven't seen here yet.
And that is being addressed, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the water issue, right now we have 2 active wells. They are capable of meeting the maximum daily demand. There is not a question that we have enough water. The aspect is that well number 2 occurred high nitrates, and we found the source of that and then capped it off. However, well number 2 is substandard and inadequate, and it only has a 26-foot seal. And by all standards, it should not be functional as a well, but the state has allowed us to continue until we get a new well. Whether we drill 100 feet from that well or at the location that I've selected is immaterial because it's in the same aquifer. However, as Mrs. Cosio mentioned, if we drilled 100 feet to the east of that existing well number 4, it would be closer to the fault line than the current site selected.
So is the proposed idea to block this one off altogether and in the end still only have 3 wells with one of them being completely...
When well number 2 is replaced, well number 1 will be employed and taken offline. And so we will have well 1 and 2, and the new well number 4 will come online. So we'll have 3 functional wells.
So this well here, is this the one with high nitrates, or that had high nitrates?
This is the one that had the high nitrates.
Okay, so this well is effectively useless because of the nitrates as
No,
is.
it's adequate now. It continues.
Oh, because we took care of the
We took care of
the issue.
The issue, yes.
Okay.
And it's capable of pumping well in capacity of what we need on a daily basis.
Okay. But it's being taken offline.
No, it will not be taken off until we get a replacement well.
But we don't know the conditions of the replacement well. I mean, we don't know what it will, the water quality or the...
Not until you
drill it.
Not until you drill it.
Right.
And the first thing we do is we go down and we do a test well, and then we take samples of it.
So if this gets approved, all said and done, how many wells will we have? How many usable wells will we have online?
3.
3. I guess maybe I'm just not following it. This is well number 2. And I thought it was being moved. It's being taken offline.
Right.
No.
Eventually.
Well number 2 will be destroyed,
Right.
and it will be replaced by well number 5.
That's
Well number
what I
4 is being negotiated for a new well, and then well number 1. So when when everything is done, we'll have well number 1, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Well number 3 is still existing, but it has high nitrates,
Okay.
and we're currently using that for agriculture purposes.
Got it. I didn't gather well number 5 was being drilled. And it's being drilled on this site, or it's being drilled in another?
On this site.
And the costs to re-drill that are being incurred by the developer?
Portion of it, yes.
A portion of it?
Yeah.
Why a portion and not the whole cost?
You cannot, in the nexus, ask one developer to solve the water problems of the city. So you have to prorate it and establish it as a nexus. And they are participating in it.
We have although by today's standards, an acceptable well on this site that they want to cap off. In my eyes, they want to cap off a well that's serving us. They should incur the total cost of replacing that well.
Well, unfortunately, the nexus doesn't allow you to do that.
But it's not our need, it's their need.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
No. They're going to participate and give us a new well that currently we're at substandard and we have to replace that well. So the monkey is on the city's back to replace well number 2.
I thought I thought you said they were allowing us to use it. Did we get some
We are allowed to use it, yes. It's substandard. But the water board has said you need to replace it.
Okay.
You're only sealed down 100.
No, I understand that. I didn't get that. You said that they're allowing us to use it. I didn't get that they had said
because
that we have to.
It's substandard. Okay. It only has a 26-foot well.
I understand.
And the minimum standard is a 100-foot seal.
I understand that. What I heard was we only have 26 feet, but they're allowing us to use it. What I didn't hear was, and they told us that it has to be replaced. Did they give us a timeline of that replacement?
Oh yes, July of 17.
Copy that. So its replacement is effectively going to become well number 4, and then they're going to help with the participation of drilling well number 5.
Exactly.
Got it. Did that make sense? No? Okay.
And just to be clear, the location of the well site is the southeast corner of this subdivision, because there are several maps that put it at the northeast corner.
It's always been on the southeast corner, yeah.
Okay, well, there were several drawings that say it's up near the open space.
Fault zone.
In the fault zone, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
And just another question, the open space, so in the current, I don't know what we call this subdivision down here, Valley...
Rancho Vista?
Rancho Vista.
Oh, Rancho Vista.
The open space there is like a catchment pond. I don't know if you've seen it. Is that what the open space will projected to be for you? Or would it be like an open space that's usable by the public? Because that's an open space, but it's fenced off. No one can actually, it doesn't look like anyone can go in there.
This will be dual. There will be an area where there will be a water quality basin that the city will also use for their water runoff from the well site. And we'll have that fenced off, but then there will be a park accessible on that little knuckle you see in the northeast section, and that will be a landscape usable park by the residents. And by the way, we are dedicating that 100 by 100 foot area for the drilling of well number 4. 5. I'm not sure.
5.
Yeah. So the city's not going to be paying for that land either.
Thank you. By the way, I was wrong. This is the annexation and pre-zoning. I guess the neg deck is online with all of the geotechnical and historical and
1,000 pages.
All that's online. But they had pictures I could use. Okay, commissioners, what do we want to do here?
I have one more question.
Oh, sure.
Regarding, I've heard talk of the Highway 156 expansion. When you're talking with the county, I guess, in terms of figuring out whether or not this would, I guess, become part of the city, but also I'm curious, the Highway 156 expansion, do they talk about that at all? I mean,
Yes, the traffic engineers here, the 156 expansion will not go beyond the current property line, and so it won't affect this.
Okay.
But as it leaves east of the Mission Vineyard Road, then it will go over into the row crop area and then take additional land.
Okay. And then, I guess along those same lines, this is my first time ever reviewing a traffic study, so I apologize if the question sounds silly. But there's one statement that says the project will generate, I don't know if that's mine.
Somebody's phone or something that's interrupting.
Yeah. It says the project would generate an estimated 479 daily trips, with 38 trips during the AM peak hour and 50 trips during the PM peak hour. To me, this sounds a little bit funny. If there are almost 500 daily trips being generated, it's estimating that only like less than a fifth of those will be during peak hours.
I don't think you're reading them right. Those are daily peak hours of the hour. And Mr. Higgins is in there, and everything. And so you're looking at 38 peak hours, of during the peak hours, not 24 hours a day, and not the thing. And so Keith can kind of answer that and everything. And it's the way we describe things in terms of when the highest peak is going to occur. And that's at 7 in the morning and 5 at night.
Would you like me to explain how we get the...
Would you give your name for the record?
Oh, sure. My name is Keith Higgins, and the company I'm with is called Mott McDonald. Last week it was Hatch Mott McDonald, but we got rid of Hatch, so now it's just Mott McDonald. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but if you want to hear about it, I'll tell you after the meeting. But anyway, page 2 is what you're referring to,
yes.
And then going along with that's Exhibit 5, And the trip generation rates are based upon comparables for single-family homes that have been counted around the country. And the typical single-family home, if you go to Exhibit 5, they generate about 9.5 daily trips. That's just on the average, roughly 10 daily trips. And about 10% of those, 10 or 11%, occur in the evening peak hour. And that's just 1 hour out of 24. So in 24 hours, that's about 4% of the time. 1 hour represents about 4% of the 24-hour time period, but 11% of the traffic occurs during that time period. Because the peak hour is just 1 hour, but if you take like the whole peak period, which might be 3 hours, people arriving and leaving, people getting home from school or whatever.
Right.
See, then now you're going to get up closer to 1/3 of the traffic.
I see.
And then you get another third in the morning spread out over a number of hours, but it's just a 1 hour slot of time. And that's why the percentages are what they are.
Okay.
So I hope that explains it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have any more questions for or against? That's the whole point of this period now, is to allow for public comment, commissioner comments, anybody's comments.
I'm still really concerned with the sewer plant. We have approximately 600 residents currently in this town.
No,
1,900. I'm sorry.
1,920.
Homes.
Oh, home.
Homes.
Yeah, about 600 residents. 600 homes.
600 residents. My understanding was that with the 85 at Rancho Vista and the 27-ish at D'Ambrosio, that's a little over 700. We're adding 45 more homes. The stat that I heard back in the day was we were going to be at, and I know we discussed this last time, but I just want to make sure it's on the record. My concern is marked and heard. We're adding 45 more homes to a sewer plant that I'm told with no upgrades is going to be at 90%.
You were told there is no upgrade? Who told you that?
I was told that with no upgrades.
With no upgrades, no. We are upgrading it as we think. We just got through putting in 2 pumps.
Okay.
And increasing the things. So whoever information that you've been relayed is inaccurate.
That was taken right off of the tapes from when Rancho Vista went in.
Yeah.
So, because I went back and reviewed the tapes, because 90% is what I heard without.
90%.
Without.
Yes. Yeah, and I think what I reported at that time is that we were ongoing and improving it at all times. And we've evaluated all the pumps and have gone to new pumps, new aerators. So we've done some incremental increasing over the last 15 months.
Okay. Once the upgrades of the 2 pumps get done, not including this, about what percentage of capacity are we at? Is there?
We're still working on that with the regional board. Because they're the ones that have to certify it and then expand the capacity.
And I know I answered. I know I asked this last time. The how do I put this delicately? The aroma coming off of the
odors.
The odors coming off of the current plant. The upgrades that are going to happen are going to decrease those? Because I'm really worried about D'Ambrosio. I'm worried about my own property right across the street from D'Ambrosio, and I'm worried that adding another 45 homes and 150 people is not going to help that situation. And I mean, this isn't just necessarily me picking. This is the community this has long been on not just social media, but just walking around town and anybody talking about any sort of expansion of homes. Water and sewer are the first 2 things that come up that given the problems that we have historically had over the last decade, they haven't been taken care of, and the citizens are concerned that these issues aren't being addressed adequately enough. So I want to make sure as a planning commissioner that these concerns are being done. I understand that as the monies come in, there's going to be upgrades made, but I want to feel very comfortable when somebody says, well, what about the sewer system? I can sit back and say, well, once the money's come in from here and here,
No, I can firmly tell you, the last 4 years I've been here, I've been working on those two issues. And we're under extreme duress from the Regional Water Quality Control Board and the State Water Board to address these. And they have us under enforcement actions on that. So there's not a day I don't go by that I have to pay attention to those same things.
okay.
Okay.
I'm going to make a comment.
Feel free.
I appreciate the comments that Jolene and Cara have made. I share them. To me, this development is no different than Rancho Vista or D'Ambrosio. It's a similar project, bringing in similar people, similar values of homes. On Bonito Link Sunday, there was an article about Tanamura and Antle being lauded for a development they just created. They built it in a year, a housing development for farm workers. We still are a farming community. We have housing just at San Juan Grade Road, which is substandard according to people I know who visited it.
Very substantial.
Today on Bonito Link, Marty Richmond wrote an article about this, saying what a great thing it was. We should do it here in San Juan. We have the same need, and suggested that farmers get together and make something like that happen. This property is still in the county. That could be used for a very worthwhile housing. I don't see where farm workers are going to live. I don't see where Del Webb service workers will live. I don't think we need more homes of the same value in San Juan. I don't see why we want to expand our town to bring outsiders. So
That's a good point.
anyway, read Bonito Link. Oh, Jolene.
We're pretty flexible here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, because as things come up, it's kind of hard in the audience sometimes when you've already made your comments. And that was a very good point Vanna made about we do need different kinds of housing in the area. It would be a wonderful thing. Hard on developers because they're not going to make as much money on that kind of project. But the points that you've all been making really go to my point about, are we moving too quickly to approve something where we've already got a site plan, we've already got lot sizes figured out and all of that sort of thing, but we're not really ready for it in terms of, yeah, we're trying to make improvements to the sewer plant. We've been trying to make improvements to the sewer plant for a long time, but we haven't made them yet. And as far as the wells go, let me quickly go over the wells that we have in case you're not terribly familiar with them, and I think I could tell from some of your comments you're not. We have well number 1, which is our best city well. It's up the canyon a little ways. We were completely dependent on it when well number 2 went down, because well number 3 had not been used for a long time because the nitrates were too high. When we stopped using well 2 because its nitrates went up, we were completely dependent for a short time on just well 1. And somehow well 2 came back into enough compliance that we could use it again, mix it with well 1. Roger, did a lot of work to make that happen. And if we had already drilled a test well at the new site for this well number 5, I wouldn't be as concerned as I am. But we have not yet drilled the test well to see if that's going to be a suitable location for it. But yet we're promising, by approving this, we're promising that the developer can move our well. So had we already drilled the test site, I would not be as concerned. But we've got well 1 working. Well 2 is going to be replaced somewhere on that property by well 5. And well 3 is currently being replaced by well 4 at a location across the road from where it currently is. Just a little further out San Juan Hollister Road than where well 2 is on this property. So when we get all the wells built, we would have 3 wells, which is a requirement. We should have 3 wells. But currently, as we've discussed here, we've got well 1, and we've got well 2. And when well 2 is taken out of service, you better already have well 5 and or well 4 built, if that makes sense. So it just seems a little premature to me. And Vanda just made another great point, about different kinds of housing instead of a whole bunch of $500,000+ homes.
Thank you. Okay, any final commissioner comments? Okay.
No, not at this time.
Okay, this will be the last.
We're not, this is not an action item, is it?
Nope.
We're
No.
not voting on it, we're not, we're not signing up for anything right now.
The only action
We're
we've
just
taken is
discussing
to
and
pre-zone
reviewing
it.
and trying to add to, if we need to add anything to it.
Any of these comments we're making will be
So,
going into.
at this point in time, I would, I go with Vanda to, I understand where she's at, and I'm kind of on the same fence with her, so it's interesting that this should come up now, but yeah, it's a good point.
Because even our housing element wants variety of housing, diversity in housing.
Well, and if you look at the Bay Area in general, if you look at San Francisco Bay Area in general, you keep building homes that nobody can afford, and it keeps pushing people further and further and further. And one of the
targets is San Benito County.
One of the targets is San Benito County. I mean, Hollister.
We're off 101. We got what is 156 and what is it 129 or no 25. So it's easy in and out to go back up there.
But what happens to the people who have to work here?
Yeah.
They start having to travel. Yep. Yep. That's good
So these
points.
are major issues to be considering. So when this final document comes up for approval, it should address all of these different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't address it now, we're going to be hit with it later. Because I can see this stuff coming up at public hearings.
So what is Chair going to say at this point in time, or what direction we're taking?
Well, at this point, and all the comments that we've been making should probably be included in the document, the negative declaration for this project.
Mm-hmm.
So if it isn't already included, staff will be able to put it in there. Because when it comes by for approval, if these issues haven't been addressed, we don't approve it until it meets the city's concerns, meets based on our ordinances and our policies. So at this point, all we can do now is say, okay, we've had input to the process. Staff will have to make appropriate adjustments to whatever's out there, and it's online. The basic thing is online, so they're going to have to make changes to that. It'll be brought for approval it has to go through that. That's what it is, 30-day approval. It has to go through a 30-day public review period. Anybody in the world can make a comment on it, and it has to be responded to. And so you have just made a bunch more comments tonight that need responding to. And so there's no further action other than the fact that staff now knows that there are concerns that have to be met within that document.
So the 30-day period ends May 13th.
That's my understanding.
So it's important to get in the comments.
If anybody wants to make written comments, they can do that.
And I hope people will not just comment on Facebook, but please make your comments where it counts. Come to these meetings, go to City Council, send a letter to the city. Sending it on Facebook is not going to help.
Yeah, we don't use that. It's anything that doesn't come to the city isn't considered. So the number one thing I personally look for is a human body up there reading me the Riot Act. 2 is a signed letter that came in and said, hey, you read the Riot Act here. 3rd is a petition, which you hand somebody a petition. I saw where the chief of police's, another state, the chief of police's wife signed a petition to get rid of the police chief. Didn't you read this thing? So, but that's why a lot of people don't give too much to petitions, because people will sign anything. But that letter with your signature, what signature on it? Or an electronic letter coming into the city clerk, or your body's up here reading us a Riot Act like we saw tonight, that's what the American process is, the public hearing process. And it's made, like I said, every time people want to talk, we let them talk. Unless we get too much, it gets out of hand, then you get to speak once. But bottom line tonight, there was a lot of comments that were very positive in looking at a document saying, hey, the city needs to look at these things. And then we had the developers and representatives talking, answering questions. Sometimes that just brings more questions, but that's what the process is all about. So when this document is finished, it'll be a basis for making informed decisions. And that's critical. It's because if we don't do it right and we get sued, the judge is only going to say, we'll do it right the second time. And that's just more time that we don't get a good project in, or the developers lose time themselves. Okay, we'll let that one go then, since we put our 2 cents in there. And when staff brings it back for approval, we'll just save your comments and make sure that they've been covered. Okay, we have some action items. Consider a resolution approving the changes for the Planning Commission bylaws. Does anybody have any comments with the draft? Anybody in the public would like to make comments on our bylaws? Commissioners want to make comments on our bylaws.
Well, let me just get clarification. I had...
I never found anything.
It says that the city clerk takes the official minutes. Oh, okay, 6C. The city clerk shall serve as the secretary, keep minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I had thought that CMAP was our official record, but apparently it isn't.
No, Planning Commission.
Okay, not for planning.
But for HRB.
For HRB. For HRB, okay.
The HRB, okay. Interesting.
Okay, I had nothing else.
Say we can review this next year if something comes up. So we should be looking at it annually anyway. Make sure it keeps up with the times. Okay, is there being no other comments, public-wise or otherwise, the chair entertains motion for action.
I move that we approve resolution number 2016.
It's going to be, record informing my numbering was off.
Uh-oh.
So this one will be number 20.
20.
Okay.
20.
A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista amending the bylaws.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Call for the vote.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros?
Aye.
Commissioner Gressel?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe? Aye. Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, consider approval of historic downtown streetscape guidelines. This one came from the Historical Review Board.
I think they did a wonderful job on this, if you ask me.
They did.
Okay.
Well, just to recap, the Historic Resources Board recommended that the Planning Commission adopt the Historic Resources Guidelines with the one amended sentence, added sentence, and that it be included in the design guidelines.
I'll second it again.
Okay, do we have a resolution?
We don't.
That's number 21?
We don't have a resolution for it.
Oh, we don't?
I can put one
Third
together.
downtown street. Oh, yeah.
If it's passed.
Bring it up in June?
Bring it in June?
Yeah, bring it in June.
Okay, we'll bring it back.
Is that
I
okay?
didn't have any final document. I wasn't sure where we were going with it.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll continue that one to June. What's the June meeting date?
June 8th.
June 8th, okay. Okay, that was good. C, consider approval of resolution 2016-XX recognizing a residential structure for National Preservation Month.
Alrighty.
Now, let's see which we got here.
I have one resolution, and I can add the second one.
Oh, you
They're
got it?
very similar. I started typing it.
Is that the same as these? Oh, that's a resolution for these.
That one is a template to do the other one,
Oh.
but didn't save the other one. I have to second that.
Okay, I thought we had resolution.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have
okay.
them.
Do you have a resolution?
Yeah. Did I
I
hand
thought,
them
I
out?
thought, yeah, I
Yeah,
thought we had them, yeah. I
in our
thought they were both
folder.
in here.
One for, one
Yep.
for each
I thought so.
building.
Yep, we got them. Yep, I got them.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not back.
Yep.
Good effort.
Okay, for the record, got it, posting it board back there. For the record, this is our 5th year now, I believe, of recognizing a commercial building for something that was done to preserve it or to maintain it so that the ambiance of the historic San Juan Bautista is maintained. So this year we expanded it now to take a residential unit for which has been major improvements or continued maintenance that keeps it in the pristine condition that we want, that helps make our city of history. And so this time we have 2 of them. And let's see. Let's start off with the
Private, residential?
You want residential first? I can do that. Let's see, where are we?
Want to make a motion?
You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista recognizing Tom and Dee Couch during National Preservation Month and recommend to the City Council.
And what number would that be?
21.
21.
21.
Okay. We also have, I'll be signing these. And the City Council will make a presentation on one of them at the meeting on the 17th, I believe? Mm-hmm. Okay. And the one that will be presented will be the non-commercial or non-residential one. Okay. We've got a motion, second?
Second.
Vote.
Commissioner Guevara?
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros?
Aye.
Commissioner Gretastoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe? Aye. Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, so let's go to 22. Does anybody want to move for 22? The
I make a
residential.
motion to approve a resolution 2016-22 of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista recognizing Pastor and Mrs. John Emilio during National Preservation Month and recommend to the City Council.
Okay, and that is for the building known as Glad Tidings Church.
Right.
I'll second that.
We have a second.
Commissioner Guevara?
Aye.
Commissioner Medeiros?
Aye.
Commissioner Gretastoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Coe? Aye. Chairman Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
All right.
Okay, that's
Yay.
good. Now, how do we do this one up there? We just route it up to the City Council? Or do we have to be there to do it?
They do it. We can attend, but
Okay,
Yeah.
the mayor basically will
yeah.
make the presentation.
Yeah. And they've gotten their letters, right, Trish? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
do
you
I
for
get
that.
a photo for the hiding too? I got time, don't I?
Yeah, you do. That's a nice gesture.
Oh,
I should've- yeah.
2 weeks.
Didn't think of it.
2 weeks.
okay. You know, we might think
What
about
2 weeks? Oh, that's right. It's coming up. I don't think so. Anyway.
We might think for next year, even, since there's more houses than commercial buildings, having 2 residentials. But let's go with this now. Okay, now we're going to do some discussions. Review the existing fencing regulations in the Muni Code and the design guidelines.
I think we punted that to strategic planning, didn't we, last meeting?
No, not that one.
Oh.
We certainly can bring it up and put it on that agenda. It wouldn't be so bad to run it through them, because I'm just,
I thought we did. Okay.
no, it was the parking one that I'd asked to be.
Okay.
But I can talk with John and add it over there. That's,
Deb, do you have anything you want to add to this? No? Okay. Comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
What's the issue regarding fencing?
Just to review existing fencing regulations.
there,
Well, what precipitated it was
the Great Wall of China.
where the old preschool used to be on 3rd.
Okay, that's,
Suddenly a wall went up and it...
Okay, so what, any more discussion on this, or? What do you do?
Mr. Chair, real quick, action item 6E.
What?
Yes. I gave you an.
Yeah, there's a revised amended agenda.
And 60, this.
Okay.
June.
Oh, yes, okay.
It is an
Oh,
action
yeah,
item,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we do need to, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that the Resources Board went ahead and allowed us to do it on the 8th, yeah.
That's
and the
E, yeah,
commission
scheduled
has
June
to. Yeah.
So, we're gonna have when,
You gotta
the
watch
same
those
day,
guys.
right? June 8th?
June 8th, Wednesday, June 8th,
Yeah. Well, we're having a resource board at that time.
same time.
I would think.
We might as well join them.
Make a motion
Okay,
on
let's
that?
make a date.
Okay, so 6E you want to go into. Okay, I didn't have this one. Okay, reschedule the meeting. Conflicts with the primary election, which could be very interesting. So the recommended date is
June 8th.
June 8th. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion on that?
I move that we change our regularly scheduled meeting from June 7th to June 8th because of the primary election conflict.
To a special meeting on June 8th.
I'll second that.
It's non-regular.
Commissioner Guerrero,
We have a
Aye.
second.
Commissioner Medeiros,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Coe.
Aye.
Chairman Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
And for all that we want to do this, everybody be sure to vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Be sure to vote.
Yeah, but for who?
Well, it's not.
Maybe we should have a meditation. They should have a meditation period here.
I'm confused.
Oh, did you hear that, Mr.
Yes. Oh, yes. Ted Cruz suspended his
He
campaign.
pulled out.
Yeah.
And a vice president.
They must have found something on him.
Okay.
Well, no, it had to do with elections. Yeah.
Broad.
Okay.
Spectrum.
Kind of make it up as you go along here.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Pretty smooth.
nothing more on fences.
No.
Well, it's,
Let that. You want that to go to June, or just drop it?
Eric, what do you think?
oh, actual fences, not being on the fence about 6E. Got it.
Now, what do we want to do with...
You know what? Let me get a hold of John and
Oh.
see if we can't kick this back to strategic plan.
Okay.
No?
Well, under what category would it fall?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Huh?
Calming devices.
Calming devices.
I won't have any time in May or June.
Then let's just...
You want to just table it?
Let's
Let's
just
table
table
it.
it until we really have something.
And we have
Okay.
something, we'll bring this back.
Table it is you set it on a table until somebody says take it off the table and put it on the agenda. So we'll
Copy
just
that.
let that one lie.
You might want to look at other cities to see what they have.
I had a lot of stuff already laid out, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's not an easy issue. You think it is, but it's really not. It's very
Okay. We have a
cumbersome.
brewery report. Kind of heard that one.
We already heard it.
We want to repeat it for the record, or is
Well,
I think we should.
I think we should note it that it has been repeated.
Can't do that.
Okay, Roger, you want to make a quick summary? Say, hey,
Just briefly, the owner is in a divorce. The litigation has been resolved, and the court stipulated that the property has to be sold and divided between the spouse and Mr. Hippolito.
okay, and they will be dealing with somebody when the sale is done. Permits are expired, so if everything's brand new.
Yeah.
I hope they can use as much as we put into it. Okay, Planning Commission permit expiration times. I don't know what building permit is, but you can take that out. The concern I had here was that, and one of them was the Leal project, you've got an outstanding permit that just kind of lives on forever and ever and ever, and they shouldn't, because times change, codes change, safety issues change. So my thought would be that we could work on an amendment to the Muni Code for underneath use permits. That use permits would be basically issued for 1 year. If you haven't taken out permits and started construction, that you would, the thing would expire. And when it expires, there is no permit. And you start from square one.
So what you're talking about is something different than a building permit.
Oh, yeah.
A building permit is titled by the California Building Code.
Yeah, but that keeps it alive.
180 days.
Yeah, that
and then
keeps it
goes
alive.
null and void. But a use permit, conditional use permit, that's controlled by you guys.
Yeah, see, so if the use permit was issued and the guy gets his building permits and you make an inspection every 180 days and it's using, that's valid. But if he doesn't come in or for permit or do anything for the permit, then it should expire and it goes to square one. If you want to continue it, you have to come in for action by the Planning Commission prior to the expiration date. You don't come in on the expiration date and say, I want to continue it. You come in because if it isn't expired within 1 calendar year, that thing is dead. And you cannot extend something that's dead. So that's kind of what I would like to have the commissioners talk about, because I think I've seen problems with this thing before. I've seen them here. And I'd like your support on something like this. Any comments?
You're talking more specific about use permits?
Any permits that we issue.
Any permits.
Any permits.
I
I just use it as an example.
Other than building permits,
Yeah,
which fall under different.
Because see, you can exercise your permit by getting a building permit and starting construction.
So if as an example, I want to start up a bicycle shop and I bring it to you guys with a beautiful layout of the front and the classic big wheeled front, and you guys love the way all that is, and you guys approve it, and I sit on it for 12 months.
It's dead.
It's dead, and I have to start over if I want to
But
start a bicycle shop.
Right now, as it is, as it exists, we can step in and say that permit does not exist.
No, that's a property right once you've issued it.
I know, but you can stop it at any time, right?
No.
Right now, you can't?
And
It's vested. It's vested for the
That's
property.
the problem.
Yeah, until it sunsets of what the commission establishes as the rule.
And that's a problem we experienced with Leal.
Yes. Because the permit portion for the restaurant, which was never built back in 81, 2, or 3,
was still viable.
Was presumed to be still technically valid, even though we couldn't find the notes for it, and that's where that whole thing was. And
well, that makes sense.
So I would see if I can put something together for discussion next time.
So
I'm just going to hit some of the other. I know I dealt with a lot of this at Monterey County. I'll get the wording.
Yeah.
And figure out what sections it should go in, and we can talk about it.
Real quick, and I hate to, I'm not trying to pick on Mr. Leal, but it is a prime example. That place, as the San Juan Inn, was closed for how many years? And then Mr. Leal purchased it. Did he submit for new?
It was not closed.
It never closed. It just looked like it should have been closed. Got it. Was it okay? All right. I haven't been around long enough, so.
But this would give the planning commission more control of permits to just kind of sit there and I'll say, hey, I want to start building, and then you've got new design guidelines, you've got new city policies and stuff, and you can't impose them because, like you said, it's vested.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
So what's the next step?
Okay, so
I'll
you're
scratch
going
something out.
to research it and come back to us. And
I will do that because I want it that bad.
For approval. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Already examine the existing code, because I think there's already sunset provisions.
Yeah, if you've got them, we'll use them. But if they're not adequate, we'll beef it up so that. And this will help staff. You don't have to argue with people. Say, hey guys, it's dead. Here's an application form, a new filing fee, and all bets are off. You start from scratch.
Should give them some heads up before it.
Oh yeah, no, this.
Yeah.
Well, bottom line is.
That's their responsibility.
It's their responsibility.
Not our responsibility to chase them.
I mean, we can't hold his hand.
Would that have helped with the Valles property, the 4 lots?
Yeah, I think so.
We got to also let them know we've given them every opportunity.
Well, the Valles property the site design went null and void. It was the lot line adjustment.
That will always
And
hold.
he perfected that, and it became real because it was surveyed and perfected. So that was...
That won't change.
That won't
Yeah.
change, yeah.
But it was the second, lot line
Right.
adjustment that didn't have to be given because you got one.
Okay.
So like I said, there's a lot of ways, there's always, people always have the right to appeal, and that's why I want to make sure we put it right the first time. But it should be, and it'll be a condition of approval. This permit expires 1 year from calendar date of approval unless it has been extended prior to expiration. That's a condition of approval. So it's written, the guy gets it, he signs it,
He knows it.
and he knows what he's getting. So it's not underhanded, it's not sly, it's right up on the top.
And the only deviation from that is tentative maps are good for 2 years. And the applicant can come back before it expires with a letter, and it's automatically extended for 1 year. Any extension beyond that requires proof that the off-site improvements exceed X amount of dollars. Then they can get an additional 2 years.
So this way, like I said, the planning commission will be in charge. If we have to ask who's in charge, it ain't
Not
us.
us.
Okay, Orchard Park. This was that issue of the council dealt with trying to get the city to work with the state so that the city gets more actively involved with that Orchard Park behind the state buildings there. I see this as a land use issue, and if it was a city property and it was privately owned, we'd be on that guy's case for fire hazards, weeds, trash, whatnot. I see a locked gate, which can be converted to a ramp, and people could picnic in there, hang out in there, and basically use the property. The state can fence off the historical buildings to any distance they want, but again, you've got this whole area. You've got the trees, you've got the cacti, a few benches, picnics.
What was the reasoning for that being boarded up?
They bought it.
I think they, and I'm just guessing, they probably didn't want people to be able to access the state park, the Castor Green Adobe.
How is it, $4?
Without paying the entry fee.
Yeah.
That was the reason I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because this issue's been around for many years. And there was even, somebody had the idea of a gazebo, so you could have a band up there.
See, a lot of cities have a courthouse square.
Drawings of what it could look like.
A lot of cities have a courthouse square, and they have the cannon there from the GAR and all this kind of stuff.
The state has never had a lot of money to deal with the park. And if they're not going to deal with that part, then let us handle it. We're happy to do that.
Maybe they can sell it to us for $1.
$1, or rent it to us for
And
$1.
that would be ideal. That would be ideal.
It happens a lot.
And that way, that's one less thing they'd have to worry about with their limited budget. Not going to get any money for it. They're not making any money from it. We could at least have people wanting to come in here to spend a picnic or...
Eat their ice cream cone.
Yeah, eat your ice cream cone, buy a pizza, get takeout.
Feed the chickens.
Feed the chicken. Now that's where the chickens could go. Would you like to talk, Georgiana?
Georgiana Gallardi, P.O. Box 1. Is there any way that we can address making some money from all of the parking that is taken up by the students, parents who are driving them here? Is there any way we can face the traffic problem? In San Juan, there was no parking on Saturday and Sunday. I know that those weren't kids that were here, but the parking issue has got to be solved in this city. I had to go home in order to park.
I just noticed tonight that the parking spots across the street are really long. Like as if they're for buses. They probably could be shortened.
There must be 20 driveways that look like they're driveways, encroached old driveways, where there's nothing, for example, where the burn was, the burned buildings.
Oh.
So when people aren't using driveways anymore, they still are red and they could get a ticket, and those would be available to us. There are all kinds of things that we need
Was
to
the parking
study
for the-
about making some money about parking in this town. Maybe we can we make our streets toll streets?
Oof.
We can discuss this when it comes back.
Ah,
because this is
it's not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
Not on weekends?
It's not on the agenda.
Oh, agenda. But yes, it is. If they're talking about the park and the problem.
The orchard
park
lot.
and
The
parking.
orchard lot was when we were studying the orchard lot with what's his name?
Daniel.
Dan from Alejo's office. We talked about the parking problem that the parents and the students' parents are creating in town. That's bringing it back to the table.
So the question is, since I truly believe it's a land use issue, and that's why it should rest with the Planning Commission. What could we do to help the cause?
I got a buck.
So a solid resolution
A resolution.
of, not
What
threatening.
did city council do? They passed a resolution, did they not?
They did.
And it's been forwarded to the State Park Commission.
Okay, now, would a Planning Commission resolution say, hey, we are the guardians of the general plan, and we see an empty hole in our plan? Roger, do you feel this would be?
Well, I got down on my note here to prepare a resolution for your next meeting.
Okay.
From the Planning Commission standpoint, not from the...
Good, and also I know that the VFW is thinking about, is going to take action on this also. Because they're a community body, and what happens in the city is a concern to that organization. And they have a history which is pretty well documented in the Mission Village Voice.
Might I also suggest that this being a historic park, that we ask the Historic Resources Board if they would also look at a resolution that gets passed and forwarded.
Well, like I said, the one thing about the Planning Commission is
We can contact them and ask them if
we
they
can do
would
that. We can take a selfie of two bodies.
Right.
But the fact that it is land use issue, and the Planning Commission is a action body.
Oh, I agree.
By law, so I thought this would be the place to go. So I'm open to any suggestion on that, but I think this is an idea that if we can add to it, make it happen, why not?
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Okay. So next, we'll agendize that for a review of the resolution and action on it.
Review the city council's resolution?
No, Roger's going to prepare one for us.
Oh.
From a Planning Commission focus. Like I said, we're the guardians of the general
Yeah.
plan. And this is a historical zone. We have a Historic Resources Board. Yeah, everything here we've got here is support our historical stuff. So the state is not going to be threatened and saying, well, you guys are going to put buildings on it. Well, it had buildings on it. That wouldn't be a bad thing either. But we'll keep it as a park. Okay. Future Preservation Month recognition. We probably ought to sit down and list out all of our concerns on, so we have it. So if somebody wants to say, what do I do? Read this. And this is what we're going to evaluate you on. Do you meet all these different criteria? And we do one for residential. We do one for non-residential.
Okay.
And see, it isn't just, like I said, major construction, fine. But this one at 1111 was not major construction, but it was continued maintenance with the tricolor palette. And that made it, I look at it every time I go by. I can't not see it. I mean, it's just that kind of an item.
Well, it's at the gateway, and it gives you a feeling for what's ahead.
Yeah.
Introduces
We
you
need
to
more of that. And so wherever somebody does, so again, I see, if you want to add to it, just even landscaping on an older house would make a major difference. So somebody who's done something, and even to the point if we wanted to do two, that's something we can talk about, when it comes up.
Okay.
Any other comments? Any public comments on that? No public comments? Any commissioner comments? Okay. End the comment then. Okay. Okay, comments and reports. Commissioners, anything you want to say that has been said already?
Not this time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna, at the city council meeting, they had a presentation for a brand.
For who?
To brand San Juan
Oh, the
Bautista.
brand, yeah.
That's right.
And how come we didn't become a part of that? How come we were not invited to that? How come we don't have a presentation here at the planning commission?
You know,
I know it's a city council thing that kind of drove that, but still.
But you know, I think, I can't imagine them not wanting additional publicity.
Yeah.
So why, who would you invite on that? Who would you talk to?
Strategic plan last meeting.
Hmm?
Came to the strategic plan.
Yeah, well, see, this is the body that makes, we have legal authority to make decisions.
But the San Juan committee hired them. Well, and the city input, right? The city contributed.
Yeah, but the thing, here's a chance to make a presentation again in front of a camera and just to reinforce all the work they've done. I mean, it's great, but if nobody knows about it...
Yeah, but they brought it before the city council.
Yeah.
So why not before the planning commission and historical resource board?
I want to get them over here. We can ask them why they didn't bypass this. I mean,
if it was the San Juan committee that's driving that, fine. But they went to city council. Why didn't it come to planning commission?
They seem like they wanted city help. Yeah. Since we're all part of this, part of the same program.
Yeah.
What does the brand have to do with the planning commission?
It's just, well, it's your, if you want to promote your commercial areas, the brand is to promote the commercial area. Remember, when you don't see the word McDonald's, you see two golden arches. What happens to your brain? My God, hamburgers.
Well,
and they want a brand, so when somebody sees it, that's San Juan, let's go.
Right, but it doesn't deal with like land use issues.
No, but
our mandate.
Indirectly, we are trying to get new businesses to come in. We had to revoke an ordinance that I felt would have helped the city. It's all related someplace.
You know, I can tell you a little bit about the process. I was at that last meeting where they decided, and while they were still talking after they made the decision, one of the members was on the phone with Trish trying to get it on the agenda for the next meeting, which was, they probably met 1 week and like on a Thursday, and then the meeting was on a Tuesday. So I think they wanted to get the brand trademarked and they wanted to start acting on it. That's what I think.
Well, it is.
It would have been perfect.
It's not a land use issue, but
it supports land use. You're not going to get businesses if people don't know about San Juan. This brand is being used to advertise the city, to get people to come over here, at least to consider. And every one of those applications are going to come through us. So it's just part of the universal circle there. But would you want to have a presentation made here? We can just say San Juan Committee?
No, I don't know. What are you going to do? And then if we had a presentation here, what are you going to do with it?
We get to know what's happening.
The purpose behind it?
We get to see what's happening in the big picture because they're working, trying to get the businesses to come in here. We're trying to get a historical ambiance for businesses to be here and get more people in here. So I think we're the governmental branch and they're the commercial branch talking about the same thing.
This isn't on the agenda. You want to place it on the agenda and bring it back?
Oh, it isn't?
This is comments.
Oh, it's a comment. Okay.
May I make a comment?
Of a comment?
It seems like it's...
I can't respond, but you can listen.
Yeah, it would be part of the HRB purview because, it's the brand and it would be perhaps on signage, gateways, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'd be a good way to find out where we need to go with it. Okay. As a planning commission, as a board. I don't know.
So leave that one to you, Vanda. Then that now goes to the Historic Resources Board.
I'll ask the San Juan Committee. I don't know if they have more funds available.
No, they get free time.
No, to pay the consultant, to pay Shipper.
Oh, to be here. Oh,
Shipper's
we can review the tape. I saw it on TV.
It's on video.
Well, I think the point was that we should have been
in the loop.
Yeah.
assistant city planner.
Okay.
Or
No,
invite
they
the
weren't,
city
they
council
weren't
meeting.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. It just expands, and you don't get all the stakeholders. You got problems. Okay, then. No other commissioner comments? Commissioner? Commissioner. Okay. City manager comments? None. City planner comments? TJ Planning Committee report?
Oh, yeah, I'm seeing the abbreviated version.
Oh, yeah. We talked about farm workers' residence or homes.
Housing.
You know, is that something we need to start bringing into our conversation as far as planning?
It's all part of the housing element. It's a legitimate concern.
Is that something we need to start looking at? Is this something that we need to throw out to the strategic planning committee?
I think it's something you're going to deal with the
I
developers.
sent it to John. I asked John to put it on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
right.
I think it's something you bring up to the
Yeah.
developers, saying, "Hey, how
But
are
I
you
think
going
that
to-"
was that's a good point. We need to look
Well,
at.
I
It
thought
needs
so.
to be part. I think it really needs to be part of our conversation,
Yeah.
our dialogue.
And it's
whenever
a
we're
county-wide
developing.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just Logan County in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and just look at the Del Webb project.
Well, we're in an agricultural area,
So we
and
don't
that's why we do it.
skew the Brown Act
Oh.
too much.
Okay, let's agendize and have a discussion about low-income housing.
Agenda.
Oh, I've been using that for.
It's in
Agenda.
1984. There's an app for it.
Maybe we can wear a badge or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I used that word
agendize
today
badge.
and my computer.
Okay, so
did a
Rudy,
red
go
line
ahead
under
and
it.
put down. How do we make it broad enough to discuss?
Inclusionary housing.
Okay. Here we go.
Inclusionary housing? Okay, that sounds good. Okay, strategic plan.
Yeah, a couple of footnotes. We discussed the, I guess, Measure P, which is a road repair countywide tax proposal. 0.5%. Half would go toward Highway 25. The rest goes into a transportation fund not designated for anything specific.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, I don't like when things are not, when they don't spell it out, because then it gets people's idea of transportation becomes anything and everything.
Yeah, people think they're going to get new roads and it's not going to go there.
Right. And, I mean, I like the fact that half of it would go towards 25, which probably needs more attention than 156 needs as far as I'm concerned, as far as getting traffic in and out of this area. So we discussed that a bit. We discussed the Orchard Garden, the soccer fields that are in. Teresa Lavanino was able to get 2 of the goalposts donated from the Bell soccer thing that's now defunct, which is way cool because
They're expensive.
they can be expensive. And I know she had asked for people who had trucks and trailers, and we had come up with a couple of names, and she had called me and said she didn't need use of the stuff that I was offering, that they had found other means. So that's awesome.
Nice.
And then there was also, we had a follow-up discussion on a joint use agreement to use the basketball courts and the soccer fields. It was kind of left, the youth commission brought it up to the school board, and the school board said, great, make it happen. And the youth commission, the kids are kind of sitting there going, what do we do next? So there was discussion on, that's not really their function. That bright group of kids, but that's not really their function. The fact that they made the presentation and got that information is great, and that got kind of...
But if they don't stay on it, it could die. So I think to have them write a couple of letters.
They're sticking with it, don't worry.
Have them write and put it in writings, have some letters, so somebody has to respond to it.
And then we discussed a volunteer program and what it means to be a portion of the volunteer program. And I think what we came down to is we need to find a volunteer to head up the volunteer program, which, so there was a discussion about finding the volunteer that would come up with the volunteer Was that kind of what it was? We couldn't figure out what, where, and how, and what it meant to be the volunteer, and what information we need out of those people, as opposed to people just showing up, there being a little bit of vetting process involved in people from volunteering for various items.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you much. Okay, Chair entertains a motion for adjournment.
I'll third it.
It is 9:30. Thank you very much.
Georgiana?